Chapter 1035. Wang Daoyuan transformed into a dragon and entered the spring. The amount of water in the spring was not much, so it did not pose much of an obstacle. It was just that the waterway below the spring was narrow. Wang Daoyuan shrank his dragon body to a length of more than a foot and drilled down along the cracks in the rocks. After diving down for more than a mile, the waterway became spacious again. On the surrounding rock walls, there were sporadic dragon scales scattered. These dragon scales did not come from the same dragon species, and their colors and shapes were all different. Although their grades had fallen to the upper fourth grade, but looking at the material, the previous grade was definitely not low. In the style of doing things, Wang Daoyuan took these dragon scales into the space of the spiritual pearl. With the nourishment of high-grade spiritual power, the grade of these dragon scales would be greatly improved in the future. Even if they could not be restored to their previous grade, they could at least be used as materials of the fifth grade. As he gradually went deeper, there were more and more dragon scales around him, and their shape was more and more similar to that of a real dragon. It could be seen that the owner of these dragon scales had a higher concentration of dragon blood. After diving for more than 10 miles, he finally came to the deepest part of the spring. This was a semicircular space with a radius of 40 to 50 feet, and in the center was a water ball with a diameter of more than a foot. Below the water ball, there was a place with spatial law fluctuations, and spiritual power was constantly seeping out from it. This was also the basic characteristic of the core of the secret territory, that it could be connected to the outside world. The water ball absorbed the spiritual power seeping out, and turned it into spring water. In addition to the rich spiritual power in the spring water, dragon chi was constantly gushing out. And the concentration of dragon chi was not low, and was not weaker than the jade dragon spring on the jade spring peak. According to the words of the myriad spirits' ancestor, the jade dragon spring had a peak 7th grade spirit spring, and there was a jade dragon living there. In terms of the concentration of dragon chi, in the whole of Beiyuan Shouxian, it could be ranked number 1. Even if the grade of the spirit spring dropped to the 4th grade, it would often nurture dragon species. The dragon chi here was comparable to that of the jade dragon spring, and was also an excellent place to raise dragons. If he could raise some aquatic spirit beasts with dragon bloodline in the lake outside, he might be able to cultivate many dragon species. This water ball was translucent, and looking at it with the naked eye, there seemed to be something inside, but it could not be seen clearly. His divine sense was blocked by the water ball. This water ball was really asking for trouble. How could a soul formation stage cultivator not be able to deal with the core of a 5th-tier low-grade mystic realm? The dragon claw instantly enlarged and reached into the water ball, grabbing the thing inside. Although the water ball had an extremely strong resistance, it was not worth mentioning in front of Wang Daoyuan. There were 2 things in the water ball. One was a golden scale with extremely complicated patterns on it. With Wang Daoyuan's knowledge, he could roughly tell that it was a heavenly Dao inscription pattern, and there was also some information about the water-controlling divine ability. However, the level of the heaven Dao inscriptions was too high, and Wang Daoyuan was unable to comprehend too much. Without a doubt, this was the dragon's reverse scale. Although it was only a 5th grade low-grade one, judging from its material, it was at least a 6th grade dragon. The other item was an oval stone ball. It wasn't big, only about 5 inches long. Its surface was pitch black, and there weren't any patterns on it. The spiritual energy fluctuation of this stone ball was at the 5th grade low-grade level, and it was still absorbing the dragon chi and spiritual energy in the spring water. To be able to absorb spiritual energy and be placed together with the dragon's reverse scale, it must have something to do with the dragon race. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to probe, but he couldn't penetrate it at all. He drew out a wisp of dust returning flame to burn the stone ball, but complicated heavenly Dao patterns appeared on the black shell. The dust returning flame couldn't break through the heavenly Dao patterns. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly put away the dust returning flame. This heavenly Dao inscription pattern was much stronger than the one on the reverse scale. And it was even more complicated, so he couldn't see any clues. This stone ball was definitely not ordinary. It was very likely to be some kind of treasure, so it couldn't be damaged. It was just that he was too inexperienced and couldn't see what it was for the time being. He had to go back and ask the myriad spirits patriarch. On the ground of this semicircular space, there were also many dragon scales scattered. Wang Daoyuan put away all these things, leaving only the water ball in the entire space. This water ball was the core of the mystic realm, so Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't touch it easily. The value of this mystic realm was still very high. It had a radius of a few hundred miles, a large area of flat land, and an abundant water source. It wouldn't be difficult to house hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. The Wang family couldn't stay on land forever. They still had to expand into the sea. There was a level 5 spirit spring in the mystic realm, and there was a branch of the heaven/mountain range outside the mystic realm. It could be a very good stronghold. Moreover, this place wasn't far from the heaven/mountain range. There were many small coastal plains along the coast of the heaven/mountain range. The large ones were hundreds of miles in radius, while the small ones were dozens of miles in radius. Close to the heaven/mountain range, the spiritual energy was abundant, and it wouldn't be a problem to build a market. Now that the demon race had been pacified, there would be a large number of itinerant cultivators settling here sooner or later. This small island would also become a prosperous place in the future, and some clansmen could be moved here in the future. After collecting everything that should be collected, Wang Daoyuan also left the spring and returned to the palace complex. He plundered a few more palaces that were protected by restrictions, but unfortunately, he didn't get anything good. It was just some refining materials of average value. As for elixirs, spirit herbs, and the like, they had all decayed and were useless. After collecting everything, Wang Daoyuan also left the mystic realm. The dragon palace in the mystic realm was called the Pan Shan Lake Dragon Palace. He didn't know whether the lake in the mystic realm was called Pan Shan Lake or the small lake on the island outside the mystic realm was called Pan Shan Lake. In addition, there was a lot of dragon chi in the mystic realm, so he might as well call it Pan Long Island. Riding on Lei Peng's flying boat, he circled around a few times and found that there were quite a few small islands nearby. The great demon kings of Beiyuan Shouxian had been dealt with, and the balance of power between the demon race and the human race had been broken. In the future, as long as there weren't any major changes on the human side, the demon race wouldn't be able to make a comeback. As the spirit chi in Beiyuan gradually recovered, the human race's advantage would become greater and greater. When the number of itinerant cultivators exceeded the capacity of the inland, a large number of itinerant cultivators would go to the coast to make a living. The best choice for itinerant cultivators to make a living was to hunt demon beasts. In the future, the number of demons would only continue to decrease, and there wouldn't be a large-scale beast tide in the future. There was no need to worry about the threat of the demon race in the sea near Pan Long Island. The nearby islands and the scattered plains along the coast could completely set up a county here. Of course, the remaining demons had yet to be wiped out. If they were in a hurry to settle down here, they would instead spend a lot of resources to guard against the demons. The gains did not make up for the losses. It wouldn't be too late to set up a county after a large number of itinerant cultivators settled down east of the heavenly/mountain range. After scouting the surroundings, Wang Daoyuan steered Lei Peng's flying boat back. A day later, he arrived above Linhai Prefecture. Over the past few days, the news that Wang Daoyuan had dealt with all the great demon kings in Beiyuan Shouxian and killed a stage 6 dragon turtle had already spread. Now, there were already some itinerant cultivators coming and going in Linhai Prefecture. Although it wasn't as grand as it was in the early years, there was already some vitality. After all, it had only been a few days, so it was normal for there to be few people. As the Wang family members continued to migrate over, this place would become more and more lively. Wang Daoyuan didn't stop here. He steered the flying boat into the 10,000 Rivers Valley. There were many flying boats coming and going in the valley. There were itinerant cultivators and Wang family members on the flying boats. Wang Daoyuan didn't disturb them and flew straight to Qingli City. When he arrived at the imperial study, Wang Mingshan hurriedly bowed. Wang Daoyuan took out a beast skin book. There's no need to be so polite. This time, I went to the place where the stage 6 dragon turtle slept according to its memories. There's a mystic realm with a radius of more than 600 kilometers. More than half of the land can be turned into spirit fields. There's also a saltwater lake in the mystic realm. At the bottom of the lake, there's a coiling mountain lake dragon palace. It should have been built by a true dragon. I found some good things there. There are also some heavenly Tao inscriptions in the dragon palace. It's better to keep them and use them to study in the future. This beast skin book also records the situation around Coiling Dragon Island. In the future, we can set up a county there to manage it. Wang Mingchen took the beast skin book and cupped his hands. Father, don't worry. I'll send someone to check it out soon. Before he finished speaking, Patriarch Myriad Spirits flew out. I heard you mention the Coiling Mountain Lake Dragon Palace. Wang Daoyuan nodded. That's right. What's wrong? Patriarch Myriad Spirits' face was full of anger. Back then, the Stage 7 evil dragon that destroyed my Valley of Beasts called himself the Coiling Mountain Lake Dragon Monarch. The Valley of Beasts forces are mainly in the north of Beiyuan Shoshin. The further south you go, the weaker your forces are. I've never heard of the Coiling Mountain Lake Dragon Palace before. The Coiling Mountain Lake Dragon Palace is in the Mystic Realm. Outside the Mystic Realm is only a small island. There's nothing conspicuous about it. If I hadn't checked the dragon turtle's memories, I wouldn't have been able to find it. Oh right, I also found many dragon scales and reverse scales in the Dragon Palace. There's also a strange stone. I don't recognize that stone either. You can help me identify it. After saying that, he took out the reverse scale and the strange stone. Patriarch Myriad Spirits mobilized his spiritual energy and held up the reverse scale. He carefully observed it for a long time. The anger on his face grew more and more intense. This reverse scale does indeed belong to that evil beast. Back then, he led a large group of demon beasts to attack my Valley of Beasts. In order to protect the sect master and the elders from activating their ancestral artifacts to kill the evil dragon, I fought with him for a long time. Even if he turned into ashes, would still recognize him. This evil beast was the main culprit behind the destruction of the Valley of Beasts. The sect master and the elders exhausted their life force and activated their artifacts with all their strength before barely killing him. However, his corpse was taken away by the demon beasts. I was heavily injured and in a deep sleep. The Valley of Beasts was almost razed to the ground by the remaining demon beasts. I don't know what happened after that. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was very excited. Back then, the evil dragon was Stage 7. No matter how it broke through, it was still a true divine beast. Even if there wasn't much essence left in the reverse scale of a true dragon, the heavenly Tao patterns on it were extremely valuable. The Valley of Beasts had a deep understanding of the Purple Mansion phenomenon and divine abilities. Among them, there was a secret technique that used the reverse scale of a dragon to comprehend divine abilities. Wang Daoyuan saw traces of the water-controlling divine ability on this reverse scale. If this item was given to a cultivator who possessed the water-controlling divine ability, it would be of great help in improving their divine ability. Moreover, the dragon race's divine ability wasn't limited to water controlling. If he could fully understand it, it might be of great help in developing Yinglong's strength. Although it was only a 5th grade low-grade material, its foundation was still a 7th grade material. If it was placed in the space of the Spirit Pearl, it would have a chance to recover to Stage 7 in the future. I really didn't expect to obtain such a good item. Unfortunately, the Dragon Palace doesn't have the evil dragon's horn or pearl. If I could find the true dragon's pearl, I would have made a fortune. You should be content. It's not bad to be able to obtain the scale of a Stage 7 true dragon. This stone is also quite extraordinary. Moreover, I find it somewhat familiar. I should have seen something similar many years ago. It's most likely related to the dragon race. Wang Daoyuan nodded. Previously, I used the dust-returning flame to burn it. An extremely complicated heavenly Tao inscription appeared on the surface of this item. These inscription patterns are similar to the ones on the evil dragon's reverse scale, but much more complicated. Patriarch Myriad Spirits hurriedly said, try burning it with the dust-returning flame again. I still recognize quite a few heavenly Dao inscription patterns. Perhaps you can tell what this item is from the inscription patterns. Wang Daoyuan once again drew out a wisp of dust-returning flame and surrounded the stone ball. As expected, heavenly Dao inscription patterns appeared on the stone ball, blocking the dust-returning flame outside. Chapter 1036. This time, Wang Daoyuan held back some of his power, so his firepower was not much. The heavenly Dao inscriptions on the stone ball were not obvious, and they were not even completely visible. Patriarch Myriad Spirit glanced at it. This thing is extraordinary. Don't worry, you can use the dust-returning flame. It won't be destroyed. Wang Daoyuan increased the input of spiritual power, and the dust-returning flame shone brightly. The heavenly Dao inscriptions on the stone ball instantly lit up. Patriarch Myriad Spirit stared at the inscriptions as if he was carefully identifying the contents. He had once reached the peak of the 7th rank, so it was naturally not a problem for him to identify the heavenly Dao inscriptions. After 100 breaths, Patriarch Myriad Spirit revealed a look of surprise. Quickly put away the dust-returning flame. You almost damaged the treasure. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly put away the dust-returning flame and asked, "What is this?" Patriarch Myriad Spirit said with a smile, "You are really lucky. This is a dragon egg. This dragon egg should be quite old. In order to protect itself, the surface of the eggshell has turned into something similar to stone. Only when it is threatened will the heavenly Dao inscriptions appear. The various divine abilities of the divine beast bloodline will appear on the eggshell. From the heavenly Dao inscriptions on the eggshell, this is a water attribute dragon. The complexity of the inscriptions is no different from that of a true dragon. In such a situation, it is either a purebred true dragon, or at least one of its parents is a true dragon. The hatched thing has to be at least a half-divine beast. Moreover, it is a half-divine beast with a half-divine beast bloodline. Its potential is much stronger than the jade-scaled flood dragon. If it is nurtured well, it will not be a problem for it to pass the dragon transformation heavenly tribulation and become a true dragon. As for whether it is a true dragon egg or an egg left behind by some dragon, I can't be sure. After all, it is too old and its vitality is restrained. It is difficult to judge. I can't say if it can be hatched. This surprised Wang Daoyuan. Of the spirit beasts he raised, apart from the red-winged crow that could be considered a half-divine beast, the others were not. Wang Minglong was transformed from a dragonfish, and its bloodline was considered low among the dragon species. Generally speaking, such a dragon species had no future. However, he could often come into contact with pure dragon aura, and the true dragon bloodline in his body would slowly improve. It was not impossible for him to transform into a true dragon in the future. Yin Yi's foundation was even worse than Wang Minglong's. Unless they ate the blood essence of white tiger-type demonic beasts every day, their prospects were not as good as Wang Minglong's. Even semi-divine beasts had different levels, just like the jade-scale flood dragon he had encountered before. Although they were famous semi-divine beasts, the dragon blood in their bodies had been passed down for countless generations. It was very difficult to continue improving one's bloodline. At least one of the parents of this dragon egg was a true dragon. The dragon blood in his body was directly inherited from a true dragon, so it would be easier for him to increase the density of his bloodline in the future. Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "As long as I'm still alive, there will always be a way. I have the spiritual fire of life, which can strengthen his life force." The possibility of hatching it was still very high. I'll go to the secret chamber to nurture this thing and see if I can awaken its life force. After saying that, he went to the underground secret room of the Imperial Study. Then, he drew out a wisp of his life spirit flame and wrapped it around the dragon egg. The life spirit fire released a large amount of life force. After a few breaths, the dragon egg began to devour this life force. As time passed, the speed of devouring became faster and faster. An hour later, he could feel the life force fluctuations in the dragon egg. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. There was a chance. As long as the life force fluctuations were emitted, it meant that the little dragon in the egg had awakened. He continued to inject life force. After more than 2 hours, the dragon egg no longer absorbed life force. The life force fluctuations in the egg also stopped increasing, as if it was full. This was normal. Even a divine beast could not devour energy without limit. Moreover, this was just a dragon egg that had been sleeping for who knows how many years. Hatching it was definitely not something that could be done in a day. Wang Daoyuan kept it in the space of the spiritual pearl. His primordial spirit also entered the space and placed the dragon egg north of the spiritual fire of life. He wanted to let it absorb more life force, but he did not expect this dragon egg to absorb water spiritual energy so fiercely. This was normal. It was originally a water-type dragon. It had been in an environment lacking spiritual energy for tens of thousands of years. Its spiritual energy was seriously insufficient and needed to absorb some. Wang Daoyuan placed it in the Xuanwu Lake in the north of the spiritual pearl. North of the Xuanwu Lake was the immeasurable primordial water. This water was extremely pure and had rich spiritual energy. It should be more suitable for the dragon egg. The Xuanwu Lake was now divided into 2 halves. The southern half of the lake was black and contained rich yin energy. The northern half of the lake was crystal clear and did not have any yin energy. He was about to place the dragon egg beside the immeasurable primordial water when he suddenly found a water spiritual vein at the bottom of the lake. This water spiritual vein was only a mid-grade stage 1 and was only 3 feet long. However, it was a real spiritual vein. He used his divine sense to investigate and found that the spiritual energy surging from the spiritual vein was also extremely pure and similar to the immeasurable primordial water. Spiritual water and spiritual fire were similar. They were both considered miniature spiritual veins. It was easy to form spiritual veins where they were. Previously, the 5 spiritual fires formed the 5 elements spiritual vein. Now that he had the immeasurable primordial water, it was not strange for it to form a spiritual vein. However, Wang Daoyuan was a little worried. The immeasurable primordial water's specialty was that it could produce an unlimited amount of spiritual spring water. Therefore, he did not dare to place the immeasurable primordial water near the water spiritual vein. Now that he had produced a water spiritual vein, it would grow rapidly in the future. With the support of the water spiritual vein, the immeasurable primordial water would produce a large amount of water. The space of the spirit pearl was less than 500 acres now. Although the space was constantly expanding, the speed was not too fast. Previously, it was more than enough to deal with the spring water of the Gui water nether spring. Now, with the addition of the lake water produced by the immeasurable primordial water, it might not be able to handle it. However, Wang Daoyuan did not plan to take any action now. After all, the entire space of the spirit pearl contained all 5 elements. The water spiritual energy and matter would slowly transform into other elements. With the restriction of other spiritual fires, there should not be too big of a problem. He also planned to wait and see. If there was too much water and it flooded the spiritual field, it would not be too late to transfer the immeasurable primordial water out. He told his doppelganger to pay more attention to the situation of the Xuanwu Lake and did not plan to care about the immeasurable primordial water. At this moment, a violent spiritual energy fluctuation came from the lava lake beside the red sun primordial fire in the south of the spirit pearl. Wang Daoyuan looked over. It turned out that the subdued spirited flame had broken through to the 6th level. The spiritual energy fluctuation gradually subsided and finally stabilized at the level of the lower 6th level. A 3-meter-tall flaming man jumped out of the lava lake and bowed in front of Wang Daoyuan's primordial spirit. "Master, I have broken through to the 6th level." Wang Daoyuan nodded with satisfaction. He had another soul formation cultivator under his command. As long as he stayed in the lava, his strength would surpass most soul formation cultivators. Moreover, this guy was very difficult to kill. "It's good that you have broken through. Continue to cultivate in the lava lake. When I need you, I will call you out." Spirited Flame shook his head. "Master, there is something I do not understand. According to the Xian Xian, spirits of nature and weapon spirits have enough spirituality. Therefore, when they break through to the next level, there will be a heavenly tribulation. However, because we are not complete living beings, the heavenly tribulation is weaker. I also felt that I was locked in by a terrifying force, as if I would be severely injured at any time. However, this force did not come for a long time. It was as if something was blocking it. The Xian Xian also flew out of the cauldron and cupped his hands toward Wang Daoyuan. Master, there is indeed something strange about this mystic realm of yours. I didn't pay much attention to it before, but after hearing what Spirited Flame said, there is indeed something wrong. The star-patterned sea cucumbers and crimson blood corals that you are raising are also considered demonic beasts. No matter what, they are complete living beings. When they break through to the next level, they will definitely attract a heavenly tribulation. After so many years, many star-patterned sea cucumbers have broken through to the 5th level. There are also a few 5th-level crimson blood corals, but no heavenly tribulation has come. Now that he mentioned it, it was true. As the space in the spirit orb grew larger, so did the seawall where the sea cucumbers and corals were raised. So far, there were more than 300 sea cucumbers in the seawall, and 60 to 70 of them were of the 4th level or higher. There were also 60 to 70 crimson blood corals, and more than 20 of them were of the 4th level or higher. These sea cucumbers and corals had all grown slowly, but they had never attracted a heavenly tribulation. Wang Daoyuan didn't pay much attention to it before, but now that he was reminded, he realized something strange. But that's not right. Even the 7-star mystic realm, which has a radius of 100,000 miles and a 6th-level high-grade spirit vein, can't block a heavenly tribulation. The space in the spirit orb is far inferior in both size and quality, but it can block a heavenly tribulation. Xian Xian also found it strange. Your portable mystic realm is indeed extraordinary. Ever since I gained sentience, I have spent most of my time in the mystic realm. In terms of understanding of the mystic realm, I'm afraid no one can compare to me. In the 7-star mystic realm, with my strength, I can completely sense the aura of the outside world. The mystic realm is connected to the outside world. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to exist stably. However, I don't feel that your mystic realm is connected to the outside world. I can't sense the aura of the outside world at all. This mystic realm also has the effect of isolating the nomological laws of the outside world. The nomological laws here are different from those of the outside world. Instead, they are similar to the nomological laws in your divine ability domain. It wasn't obvious before you broke through to the soul formation stage, but after you broke through, the nomological laws in the mystic realm are obviously different from those of the outside world. In the future, as your cultivation continues to improve, the difference between the mystic realm and the outside world may become greater and greater. The mystic realm is a subsidiary of the outside world. All the nomological laws in it are exactly the same as those in the outside world. However, the nomological laws in your portable mystic realm are different from those of the outside world. I don't know much, so I don't know what's going on. You used to have a 7th-level magic artifact. You should be able to sense the heavenly Tao. The nomological laws are the projections of the heavenly Tao. The nomological laws in the mystic realm are different from those of the outside world. You can see if the heavenly Tao is the same. Xian Xian shook his head. When I was at my peak, I was only a 7th-level magic artifact. I was still inferior to the magic artifacts of the Almighty. Now that I have fallen to the 6th level, I no longer have the ability to sense the heavenly Tao. Brother Myriad Spirit is very knowledgeable. Why don't you ask him? Wang Daoyuan knew very well that it would be useless to ask Patriarch Myriad Spirit about this. The spirit orb's background was indeed unusual. However, apart from the different flow of time, there were no other abnormalities. It was not particularly rare for the flow of time to be different. In the Secrets of the Valley of Beasts, it was also mentioned that there was an Earth Immortal who could control time. This Earth Immortal was proficient in the art of refining. He once tried to use the mystic realm to refine a spatial magic artifact. He wanted to make the flow of time inside and outside the mystic realm different. Whether or not he succeeded in the end was not mentioned in detail. However, at least it meant that the flow of time inside and outside the mystic realm was different. Wang Daoyuan had always thought that the mystic realm of the spirit orb was just an abnormal mystic realm with the nomological laws of time. Now it seemed that the mystic realm of the spirit orb was not that simple. As for what it would become in the future, it was still hard to say. Master, if you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. Let me go out to go through the tribulation first. The spirit clan's tribulation is not dangerous. They will only suffer some injuries and will be fine after some rest. In the future, I will go out to fight for you. The heavenly Tao wants to send a thunder tribulation to strike me, but it is stopped by your mystic realm. If the heavenly tribulation comes when I go out to fight for you, then it will be troublesome. Chapter 1037. At this moment, Yunyi's big furry head stretched over. Master, although I don't understand what you're talking about, I can't understand it. But I seem to have heard you say that staying in this mystic realm means that you don't have to undergo heavenly tribulation. Is that true? Wang Daoyuan's Yuanshan pulled one of his ears and said, "You are the descendant of the soul-devouring dark tiger. Can't you be more capable?" Thinking about cultivating into a divine beast, he could go wherever he wanted and eat whatever he wanted. Wasn't that good? At that time, no one will be able to stop you no matter where you go. Yunyi was also a little tempted. How many heavenly tribulations do you need to transcend? You need 3 more times. Yunyi shook her head repeatedly. No, I almost lost my life during the first 2 tribulations. I still have to do it a 3rd time. This unambitious fat cat gave Wang Daoyuan a headache. Back then, when he was traveling in Shanbei, he had no time to take care of him. The clansmen didn't dare to control him and let him go around eating and drinking, which resulted in his lazy personality. Xian Xian, flame spirit, take care of Yunyi when you're free. If you're not cultivating, stay by the fire. Xian Xian smirked. Don't worry, master. We have a good relationship with Yunyi. We often help her expel the cold. Yunyi looked like he had nothing left to live for. Just as he was about to retort, Wang Daoyuan threw him back into Xuanwu Lake. Spirited flame, you'll have to go out and fight for me often in the future. Naturally, you can't miss the heavenly tribulation. As for the sea cucumbers, corals, and the like, they were food and refining materials in the first place, so it was better if they didn't suffer the heavenly tribulation. I'll let you out after I find a suitable place to transcend the tribulation. Then, his primordial spirit left the space of the spiritual pearl and returned to his physical body. Xian Xian smiled and said, Yanling, now you know I didn't lie to you, right? Not even Earth Immortals could stop the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, he was only at the early stage of the divine transformation realm. Once he became an Earth Immortal, he would have a bright future in this mystic realm. If we follow him, becoming a true astral will be a simple matter. After Wang Daoyuan's primordial spirit returned to his body, he immediately left the secret technique and went to the imperial study. Patriarch Myriad Spirits was somewhat surprised to see him. Why are you out so quickly? There's a lava spirit I subdued in the Sea of 7 Stars that wants to break through to the 6th stage. I need to find a suitable place for it to transcend its tribulation. Patriarch Myriad Spirit had an envious look on his face. He was still only at the low-grade Tier 5. Furthermore, it was much easier for nature spirits to become astrals than artifact spirits. Rank 6 lava spirit? This was a great helper. If he stayed at the mouth of the volcano, he would be able to fend off cultivators of the soul formation intermediate stage with ease. The upper limit of a natural spirit's growth was extremely high. As long as he stayed in a place with sufficient spiritual energy, he would have a chance to become an astral. It's very difficult for us artifact spirits to transform into the spirit race without a great opportunity. However, the spirits of nature were not true living beings. The heavenly tribulation of breaking through to the 6th stage was probably not much stronger than the Yuanying heavenly tribulation of the human race. Just find a place with no one around. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, this can't be done casually. When we crippled the demons, not many people saw it with their own eyes. The flame spirit's tribulation this time is a good chance to show our strength so that those half-demons won't dare to be disloyal. Moreover, if we show enough strength, the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce will be able to recruit more people. With that, he left the imperial study and took Lei Peng's flying boat to the northwest. The place with many half-demons and itinerant cultivators was the Fallen Stars County. It was a place where half-demons gathered, and the governor was the leader of the Green Dragon tribe in the north of the mountain. He was the only Yuaniing half-demon in the north of the mountain, so it was natural for him to be the governor. The Fallen Stars Oasis was the largest oasis in the entire north of the mountain. In addition, half-demons had a myriad of cultivation arts. Therefore, there were many itinerant cultivators doing business here. In addition, half-demons wanted to integrate into the human race, so they often recruited human itinerant cultivators. There were still many itinerant cultivators who didn't want to work hard and wanted to live off women. Therefore, there were hundreds of thousands of itinerant cultivators in the Fallen Stars Oasis. It was as lively as the oasis at its peak. Wang Daoyuan didn't hide his aura at all along the way. When he released the aura of a soul formation cultivator, the itinerant cultivators along the way were frightened. The flying boat soon arrived near the Fallen Stars Oasis. Wang Daoyuan landed more than 500 kilometers east of the Fallen Stars Oasis. He put away the Lei Peng's flying boat and took the flame spirit out of the space of the spirit pearl. As soon as the flame spirit came out of the space of the spirit pearl, he was locked down by a heavenly might. Soon, a dark cloud appeared in the sky. Although the heavenly tribulation of nature spirits wasn't as strong as that of the human race, there were still tribulation clouds. When the artifact spirits of the Linglong Pagoda and the Yin-Yang Compass woke up, there was only a bolt of lightning in the sky. There was no tribulation cloud. That was also because they had already been struck by lightning back then. When they recovered their ranks, the heavenly tribulation was just a formality. The flame spirit broke through to the 6th level, so the heavenly tribulation was still necessary. After the dark cloud appeared, it quickly expanded. It didn't stop until it had a radius of 500 kilometers. The tribulation cloud when Wang Daoyuan broke his core and formed his nascent soul was almost as big as this. The flame spirit had already broken through to the 6th level, so this power was naturally not a problem. The heavenly might enveloped the surroundings, and the Fallen Stars Oasis could naturally sense it. An azure dragon's shadow flew out of the Fallen Stars Oasis, then turned into a human shape and stopped next to Wang Daoyuan. This person wore a long green robe with fish scales on it, and there were 2 green dragon horns on his head. He bowed to Wang Daoyuan. Qing Yan, the governor of the Fallen Stars County, greets your majesty. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, Governor, there's no need to be so polite. I've subdued a spirit of lava outside. Now that I've broken through to the 6th level, I'm about to transcend the tribulation. Although the 6th level heavenly tribulation of nature spirits is far inferior to that of humans and half-demons, there are many similarities. Take a good look and gain some experience. When the spiritual energy of the mountain/range gradually recovers, you might have a chance to break through to the soul formation realm. Qing Yan cupped his hands and said, Thank you, Your Majesty. At this moment, many itinerant cultivators flew out of the Fallen Stars Oasis to watch the show. They didn't dare to get close. They just watched from 1,000 kilometers away. After the tribulation cloud took shape, the heavenly tribulation soon arrived. A black lightning bolt fell from the sky. The flames on the flame spirit's body surged, forming a fiery red shield. This guy had learned a lot from the Xian in the spiritual orb. He no longer relied on brute force to fight enemies like before. The lightning bolt fell, penetrated the shield, and left a wound on his body. The flame spirit was born from lava, so he didn't have a real body. It didn't matter if his shell was damaged. As long as his core, the spiritual pivot, wasn't seriously damaged, he would be alive and kicking as soon as he was thrown into the lava. The second heavenly tribulation soon arrived. The flame spirit didn't condense a shield again. Instead, he condensed a long spear with flames. This long spear was more than 6 meters long and was entirely red. Coupled with his 3-meter-tall body, it looked quite impressive. When the black lightning bolt fell, he shook the long spear and a large sea of flames flew out. It took a few breaths of time to completely offset this tribulation lightning. The heavenly tribulation of nature spirits and weapon spirits didn't have a fixed pattern because they were all strange to begin with. Their background, potential, and strength were all different. The gap between nature spirits was even greater than the gap between humans and demons. The type of heavenly tribulation that descended had a lot to do with their background and potential. Moreover, after the heavenly tribulation, there was no gift from heaven and earth. Whether they died or not depended on their own ability. The spirit race wasn't a complete creature, so there was no need to worry about recovery. Just like the flame spirit, as long as there was a trace of spirituality left, he could slowly recover if he was placed in the lava. Of course, transcending the tribulation wasn't completely without benefits. Every tribulation was harmful to the spirit race, but it was also helpful. The lightning tribulation contained energy that was beneficial to the spirit race's cultivation. As long as they could resolve the lightning, they would gain a lot of benefits. The flame spirit was strong enough, so these lightning tribulations only caused him some damage. After 5 lightning tribulations, the tribulation cloud in the sky completely dissipated. In the ancient books of the Valley of Beasts, there were records of a level 6 nature spirit that had endured more than 10 lightning tribulations. The flame spirit's talent was really ordinary. The flame spirit sat down and meditated, looking a little dispirited. After a while, his body began to change. His lava shell began to change, finally turning into a young, red-faced man. The flame spirit looked at his appearance and was overjoyed. "Master, I'm one step closer to becoming a true spirit race." If the myriad spirits patriarch and the other artifact spirits saw this scene, they would definitely be envious. Wang Daoyuan nodded. "Cultivate well." With that, he waved his hand and put the flame spirit into the space of the spirit pearl. Green Rock hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, I've already ordered people to prepare a banquet. Please come." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "There's no need to go to the expense. I was cultivating when the flame spirit suddenly broke through. It's hard to say how powerful the spirit race's tribulation is, so I came to this desert. Now that the flame spirit's tribulation is over, should return. The Starfall Plain is so prosperous. The governor has really governed it well." Green Rock was overjoyed to receive Wang Daoyuan's praise. "Your Majesty is too kind. This is just my duty. You have done well in governing the Starfall County. The Imperial Court will reward you." With that, he steered the Lei Peng flying boat and flew at full speed toward Clear Glass City. The Thunder Rock flying ship's speed left Qin Yen dumbstruck. The half-demon's inheritance was inferior to that of humans and beasts. Especially in the area of artifact forging, it was not just a little bit inferior. He could only see that the Lei Peng flying boat was a high-grade 5th-grade artifact, but he could not understand how it could be so fast. After returning to the Imperial study in Clear Glass City, it was Wang Daochang's turn to deal with official business. "There's news from the Starfall Plain. You frightened the half-demons. A 6th-grade spirit race cultivator's tribulation is too shocking for them." Wang Daoyuan laughed. "This is also a warning to the half-demons. Now that the spirit race is crippled, they still have to rely on the half-demons to occupy the Arctic icy plains. With more space, it's inevitable that they will have other thoughts. It's better to intimidate them in advance so that they won't raise a new spirit race in the future. The way to control people is to use both kindness and severity. I've already intimidated them, so it's time to give them some favors. I have some nascent nurturing pills here, so I'll reward them with 20. The Imperial Court will also give them some artifacts so that the half-demons won't have other thoughts." With that, he took out 2 jade bottles and gave them to Wang Daochang. "Okay, leave this to me. You're now a late-stage golden core cultivator, so you should prepare to break your core and form your nascent soul. I don't lack spirit items that can assist in forming your nascent soul. With one more yuanying, the family will be more stable. I've been back for a while and have been running around outside. It's time to see the two little fellows." With that, he left the imperial study and came to Changle Palace. This was a palace specially built for him and Zhou Wan. When he walked into Changle Palace, he heard Zhou Wan complaining. "After dealing with the demon beasts, you're running around. You don't even have time to see the two children." Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian also ran out of Changle Palace. Wang Mingren knew the rules and bowed in front of Wang Daoyuan. Wang Mingxian threw herself into Wang Daoyuan's arms. "Father, I haven't seen you for more than 10 years. I miss you so much." Zhou Wan snorted. "Have you forgotten the etiquette I taught you before? You're such a big girl, but you don't have any manners at all. If your father hadn't left a few backup plans, the two of you would have been captured by the demon beasts. If the demons took the two of you as hostages, it would be difficult to deal with all the demon monarchs this time. At the very least, it would delay the future of the entire human race. If you continue to be stubborn and ignore the big picture, don't even think about traveling in the future." Chapter 1038. The three children weren't afraid of Wang Daoyuan. Instead, they were more afraid of Zhou Wan. Now that Zhou Wan was furious, Wang Mingxian was also shocked. She let go of Wang Daoyuan and stood with her head lowered, looking very aggrieved. Zhou Wan continued, "Your father risked his life for our family to be where we are today. Back then, for a piece of yin-yang purple jade, he infiltrated the Blood Shadow branch with his peak foundation establishment cultivation. When he was in the middle stage of the Violet Palace realm, he infiltrated the southern wasteland's Blood Demon City alone for the spirit fire and stole it from under the noses of Golden Core demonic cultivators. When he was in the late stage of the Violet Palace realm, he stole the true demonic Blood Lotus from a group of demonic cultivators. When he broke through to the Yuanying realm overseas, he went to snatch spirit herbs from several powerful late-stage Yuanying cultivators. In terms of cultivation talent, your father isn't any worse than you. Why did he only reach the Violet Palace realm when he was more than 100 years old, but you did so when you were in your 30s? It's because you didn't have enough resources. The resources he used for his cultivation were all exchanged with his life. Without the resources he risked his life for, how could you be where you are today? You enjoyed such good resources, but not only did you not help, you even caused trouble. In order to deal with the demons, he started to secretly plan a few hundred years ago. This time, he set a trap for the demons, and it's time to completely eradicate them. For a few hundred years, he spent a lot of effort to get to where he is today. He paid such a big price, but you almost ruined it because of your temper." After being lectured, Wang Mingren had a guilty expression, while Wang Mingxian's face was already covered in tears. Wang Daoyuan patted Wang Mingxian's head. "I relied on myself for cultivation resources. At that time, the family was in a precarious situation, so I had no choice. You didn't have so much pressure, so it's inevitable that you're immature. Your talents are excellent, and your future is bright. Don't put yourself in danger because of a little temper. In the future, if our Wang family wants to fight our way out of Beiyuan, we'll encounter stronger enemies. Father might not be able to protect himself, so he'll have to rely on you. If you still have a temper, you won't even have a chance to survive. Your mother is strict with you because she wants you to survive. Being talented and strong didn't mean that one was capable. The sixth son of the Zhao Emperor was also a rare genius, but the Zhao Empire had almost been destroyed in his hands. Don't follow in the footsteps of that idiot, squandering all his family's wealth and becoming a laughingstock. You guys have been out training for so many years. You should have gained a lot. Go to the imperial study and cultivate." The two children nodded and left Changle Palace. Zhou Wan sighed. These two children are more talented than Ming Chen, but in terms of intelligence, they are far inferior to Ming Chen. The demon race was about to launch an all-out attack. Ming Chen had repeatedly ordered them to return, yet they still dared to wander outside for a few months. Did they really think that they could hide from the greater demon king with their meager abilities? The two of us are not at a disadvantage when it comes to scheming against those old fellows. Why are these two children so stupid? Wang Daoyuan advised. We were surrounded by danger in the past. If we took a wrong step, we might have lost our lives. If he wanted to survive, he had to be smart. When Ming Chen was young, the situation was not very stable. The demons in the north of the mountain were still very strong. He also had to do his best to maintain the stability of his family and the commandery. When the two of them were born, I was already the most powerful person in Beiyuan. The Yan kingdom was also the most powerful human force. No matter how much trouble they caused, there was no danger. In the end, we were too good to the children. We did not let them feel any pressure. The disciples in the family who did not have high status were quite brave. Take second brother's grandson, Wang Dimao, for example. He dared to open a shop in the demon race's nest for cultivation resources. If a family wants to continue to prosper, they need this kind of drive. It seems that we should be stricter to the children in the future. By the way, how are your preparations for the breakthrough? My state of mind is almost ready. Now, it has been ruined by these two troublesome children. Anyway, there is no danger now. Let's adjust for a while more. I will go meditate and calm my state of mind first. The biggest danger of Yuanying breaking through to the soul formation realm was the inner demon tribulation. As long as there was an inner demon, the chances of surviving the inner demon tribulation were very slim. Most peak-stage Yuanying cultivators had prepared the resources for the breakthrough, but they still had to spend decades or even centuries to improve their state of mind. If there was guilt or regret in their hearts, they had to do their best to make up for it. In the illusion, no matter how strong one was, it was useless. Whether or not one could survive this ordeal depended on one's state of mind. Although Wang Daoyuan had regrets in his heart, he did not dare to say that everything was a good thing. Even if he did something evil, he had a clear conscience. This was also the reason why many evil people could survive the inner demon tribulation. As long as they had a clear conscience, they would not have an inner demon. Zhou Wan could not be disturbed, so Wang Daoyuan planned to return to the Jade Spring Mountain and try to refine a 6th-grade magic weapon. He casually glanced around Chang'e Palace and found a black wolf tied up in a corner. This wolf was the one that ambushed Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian. It was injured by Blackie and was kept in the demon-subduing gourd by Wang Mingren. Now that its neck was tied up by a 5th-grade magic weapon rope, it could not use any of its strength. Wang Daoyuan looked at this wolf and felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. He came to the black wolf and looked at it carefully for a while. The black wolf was a little impatient. What are you looking at? I don't want to live after falling into your hands. If you want revenge, come at me. It's my honor to die in the hands of the #1 powerhouse in Beiyuan like those great demon kings. I only hate that I didn't eat you 400 years ago and left such a big problem for the demon race. When it said this, Wang Daoyuan remembered a lot of things. This was the Black Cloud Wolf King that he had met when he was picking the dragon vine in the Qi refinement stage. Before he reached the foundation establishment stage, he had caused trouble for it many times. Later, when he went to look for the inheritance of the 5 elements spiritual master, he met it again. After that, he had not seen it again for more than 400 years. There had been many chaos in the heaven/mountain range. He did not expect that this guy could survive until now and cultivate to the 4th level. You were courting death for the grudge back then. Why do you have to chase after me? I'll look for my spiritual herbs, and you'll be your wolf king. It'll be better if we don't interfere with each other. But you killed my son. That was because someone in the Green Willow district wanted to mess with me and used the main ingredient of the foundation establishment pill as bait. Your son should have been killed by the person who messed with me. It has nothing to do with me. The Wolf King still didn't believe him. Wang Daoyuan sneered. With my current strength, do I need to lie to you? You've already become my prisoner. What else is there for me to lie to? I've already killed all the great demon kings of your demon race. Why would I care about you? Hearing this, the Wolf King's eyes, which were shining with hatred, quickly dimmed. 400 years of hatred, so it's just a lie. Now that the demon race has no future, I've fallen into your hands. If you want to kill me, just do it. We can be considered old friends. Many of the people from back then are no longer here. It's not easy to meet an enemy from more than 400 years ago. Also, your talent isn't bad. You seem to have some moonhowl wolf bloodline. The moonhowl wolf is also a type of primordial beast. In terms of potential, it's stronger than some weaker divine beasts. I'll give you a chance to live. Serve me as your master, and I can spare your life. There are many primordial beasts in the West Sea. Kill them and use their essence blood to refine pills. It can help you awaken more moonhowl wolf bloodline. In the future, it's not impossible for you to cultivate to rank 7 and become a demon powerhouse. The Wolf King laughed. I hated you for 400 years, but in the end, I realized that I hated the wrong person. After being a king for hundreds of years, I really don't want to bow and scrape. Back then, when you made trouble for me, many of the wolf cubs in the wolf pack died. If I serve you as my master, I'll be letting them down. Since we're acquaintances, just give me a quick death. I only ask that you don't kill all my descendants. If possible, bury me in Black Cloud Mountain. All these years, I've either wandered around or joined other demon races. In the end, the place I miss the most is still Black Cloud Mountain. Don't worry, the human race also needs resources from the demon race. If all the demons die, the demon cores needed for foundation establishment and core formation will be gone. As for Black Cloud Mountain, I just happen to want to take a look. I'll take you there. With that, he untied the Wolf King's chains and rowed Lei Peng's flying boat to the southeast. In less than an hour, the flying boat arrived at Black Cloud Mountain in the southeast corner of Hundred Rivers Lake. There were no more traces of demon beasts here. After all, many Wang clansmen lived here. For the safety of their clansmen, they couldn't let any more demon beasts appear here. Wang Daoyuan put away the flying boat and stood at the top of Black Cloud Mountain with the Wolf King. The Wolf King raised its head and let out a long howl. After 100 breaths, it stopped. After going around in circles for hundreds of years, I didn't expect to return here. Let's do it. Wang Daoyuan sighed softly and patted its head. The Wolf King's life force was cut off and it fell to the ground. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand halfway up the mountain. A large pit immediately appeared on the flat ground and buried the Wolf King's body. An old opponent that he had always wanted to kill back then was finally taken down. Unfortunately, there was one less old friend. Just as he was about to leave, a golden sun flew over. He didn't need to look to know that it was the red-feathered crow. As his cultivation increased, the spirit energy and divine sense consumed by his divine ability became less and less. Now that he was under the sun, he could use it for a long time. This speed was no longer slower than the gray rock. When he had nothing to do, he would always bask in the sun, but his cultivation speed wasn't slow. Ever since he broke through to rank 5, he didn't enter the space of the spirit pearl much. In only the 70s or 80s, he had already broken through to mid-grade rank 5. According to the cultivation speed of the human race, it naturally wasn't fast. But according to the cultivation speed of the demon race, this was already very terrifying. Before dealing with those great demon kings, Wang Daoyuan had him patrol around. To prevent the demon race from wandering here and hurting the Wang family clansmen. Now, it just so happened that the red-feathered crow was patrolling here. The red-feathered crow stopped his divine ability and landed on Wang Daoyuan's shoulder. "Father, long time no see." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Not bad, your cultivation speed is fast enough. I found a rank 8 golden crow feather in the sunset abyss of the Qixing Sea Shuxian community. Although its grade has dropped to rank 6, it's still very useful to you." With that, he took out the golden crow feather. The red-feathered crow was stunned when he saw the golden crow feather. "Father, I feel a trace of golden crow blood essence in it. If I can refine it into my body, it will be extremely beneficial to my bloodline." Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to investigate and only found extremely rich pure yang energy. This yang energy blocked his divine sense, so he didn't know anything about the situation inside the feather. However, the red-feathered crow had a very rich golden crow bloodline in his body, so it was normal for him to be able to sense it. I can't detect the situation inside. Since there's golden crow blood essence in it, you can refine it. Your talent is much better than Yun Yi and the others. Grow up soon and fight with me. With that, he put the red-feathered crow into the space of the spirit pearl. He also instructed Spirited Flame, this red-feathered crow is a spirit beast I raised since he was young. You haven't seen him before, so don't hurt him. Master, don't worry. I'm consolidating my cultivation and digesting the benefits brought by the heavenly tribulation. I don't have time to fight with him. Chapter 1039. After the red-feathered crow entered the space of the spirit pearl, it obediently stopped on the tallest blood-fire hibiscus tree. Now that there was a spirit of lava fighting with it for territory, it was naturally unhappy. However, its current strength was not enough to fight the spirit of lava. It could only swallow its anger and obediently refine the golden crow feather. He opened his mouth and sucked out a wisp of pure yang energy from the golden crow feather and began to slowly refine it. During the refining process, the spirit power on his body slowly increased. After all, it was left behind by a rank 8 golden crow. Even if its grade dropped, it was still extremely precious to him, who had a rank 5 golden crow bloodline. This golden crow feather contained a lot of pure yang energy. At his current speed, it would probably take him a few hundred years to refine it. Fortunately, with the space of the spirit pearl, it would only take a few years. Wang Daoyuan was relieved that Spirited Flame and the red-feathered crow were safe. His divine sense left the space of the spirit pearl and did not continue to stay here. He took the flying boat back to Jade Spring Peak and went to the underground cave to prepare to refine a rank 6 magic weapon. He did not have many rank 6 metal materials, but he still had a lot of demon beast materials. He had killed the rank 6 Kuei dragon in the Sea of 7 Stars and killed the dragon turtle in Linhai State not long ago. The Kuei dragon's body was more than 300 meters long, and the dragon turtle's shell was dozens of meters long. The scales, bones, and dragon horns on its body were all excellent refining materials. Any one of the dragon scales could be used to refine a rank 6 magic weapon. There were thousands of dragon scales that were more than 3 feet in diameter on these 2 dragon species, and each of them could be refined into a shield. There were tens of thousands of small dragon scales that were 2 to 3 inches in diameter. Together with the dragon turtle's shell, they could also be refined into a shield. If taken out individually and refined into a magic weapon, it would also be quite powerful. Their blood essence had also been refined and could be used to refine blood essence pills in the future. The Kuei dragon's blood essence pill was a little lacking. After all, the dragon blood in his body was very thin. Although the Kuei dragon looked like a dragon, it was not a member of the dragon race and did not have dragon blood. Wang Daoyuan didn't have any spirit beasts with the bloodline of the Kuei Long, so there wasn't much point in refining the blood essence pill. The dragon turtle's dragon blood was extremely pure. Although it still had the black tortoise bloodline, it had 4 claws and 5 fingers, so it should have more than half of the true dragon bloodline. The essence blood of the other flood dragons had already been refined into bloodline pills by the Avatar Devil Prison. If he gave some to Wang Xianlong and Wang Minglong in the future, it would be of great help to them in improving their bloodline. Also, Wang Dirun's dragon blood awakened natal spiritual beast could also be given some bloodline pills. Although his forging skills were already high enough for him to forge an upper-grade Tier 5 magic artifact, he was still able to forge it. However, before he officially started, he still needed to practice with Tier 5 materials. There were some differences between the refinement methods of 6th-grade magic tools and 5th-grade magic tools. The tool patterns were usually not on the surface of the magic tool, but inside the magic tool. These tool inscriptions were no longer carved out, but condensed using his divine sense and the power of law. Other than that, the tool pattern was also different from a level 5 tool pattern. Tool inscriptions ranged from level 1 to level 5, and they were all arranged using basic tool inscriptions. However, as the grade increased, the basic tool inscriptions became more complicated, and the consumption of divine sense increased. Although it was very complicated, as long as one had enough divine sense, it was not difficult. At level 6, many tool patterns and inscriptions of law would combine to form inscription patterns, which were called restrictions. Magic tools with multiple restrictions were distributed in different places, independent of each other, but also related to each other. Although a level 5 magic tool met the most basic requirements to give birth to an artifact spirit, it was very difficult and required a very long time to nurture. The restrictions in a level 6 magic tool seemed to be closely related to the artifact spirit's law. Magic tools with restrictions could easily give birth to an artifact spirit. The difficulty of nurturing an artifact spirit was greatly reduced. Only magic tools with artifact spirits were qualified to be called spirit tools. There were very few spirit tools among level 5 magic tools. Most level 6 magic tools could give birth to artifact spirits, so all level 6 magic tools could be called spirit tools. As long as there was a complete restriction in the magic tool, it could be considered a level 6 magic tool. Of course, a newborn artifact spirit could not directly participate in a battle like myriad spirits ancestor and Ling Long. At most, it could increase the power of the spirit tool by a little. Some could not even show their form and could only give the spirit tool some spirituality. Only those extraordinary spirit tools that had been nurtured for countless years could give birth to a highly intelligent artifact spirit. Because these restrictions were formed by many tool patterns and inscriptions of law, they contained many basic functions. Every restriction had basic functions such as carrying spirit force and divine sense. At the same time, every restriction had a main function. For example, an armor-piercing restriction that increased lethality, an illusory restriction that could make people fall into the environment, and so on. Because it required the combination of specific inscriptions of law and tool patterns, it was very difficult to create one's own restrictions. It could be said that 1 in 10,000 blacksmiths could create their own restrictions. The standard of a level 6 blacksmithing inheritance mainly depended on the number of types of restrictions recorded. Wang Daoyuan planned to refine a shield, and the material was dragon scales. When he started refining, he would naturally refine a spirit tool with restrictions. Not only was it difficult to refine a spirit tool with many restrictions, but he also had to consider the cooperation between the restrictions. If the cooperation was not good, the restrictions would repel each other. No matter how powerful he was, the Dharma tool would be destroyed without a doubt. Wang Daoyuan took out a piece of mid-grade level 5 dragon scale, which was also obtained from the Sea of 7 Stars. He had already memorized the defensive restrictions in the Divine Weapon Pavilion's treasured cauldron inheritance. He released the power of divine sense and activated the inscriptions of law, beginning to condense a restriction on this piece of dragon scale. Because he was only trying to condense a restriction, he did not do anything to the material. If the material's strength and grade were not enough, it would not be able to bear the restriction. If it was forcibly condensed, either the restriction would collapse and disappear, or the refinement material would be damaged. Condensing a restriction involved the inscriptions of law. Wang Daoyuan had just broken through to the soul formation realm not long ago, and his control of the inscriptions of law was insufficient. Veteran soul formation cultivators had stronger control of the inscriptions of law and could borrow the power of heaven and earth to fight their enemies. Because Wang Daoyuan had the divine ability domain, he could borrow the power of heaven and earth through the domain, even more than those veteran soul formation cultivators. No matter how poor one's control of the inscriptions of law was, they could exert extremely strong power in a fight. Therefore, when one reached the soul formation realm, the role of the domain was even greater than before. Of course, Wang Daoyuan did not borrow the power of the domain when refining. In the process of condensing a restriction, he could constantly borrow the power of the inscriptions of law to improve his control of the inscriptions of law. Although the power of his divine sense was strong enough, his understanding of the inscriptions of law was still too little. After several attempts, he failed. Fortunately, the dragon scale was hard enough and was not damaged. Wang Daoyuan was not discouraged and continued to try to condense a restriction. It took more than half a year and nearly 100 failures before he finally condensed the first complete defensive restriction on this piece of dragon scale. Next, he needed to completely integrate the restriction and the refinement material. Wang Daoyuan drew out a wisp of Gui water death flame and began to calcine the dragon scale. Although it was a water attribute spiritual fire, as long as the spiritual power was strong enough, it could still melt the dragon scale. Under the calcination of the Gui water death flame, the restriction slowly merged with the dragon scale. After nearly a month of tossing and turning, the dragon scale and the restriction were completely integrated. Wang Daoyuan put away the Gui water death flame and the power of his divine sense. With a crack appeared on the surface of the dragon scale. This crack went deep into the dragon scale, and the entire restriction collapsed. This was because the grade of the mid-grade rank 5 dragon scale was too low to bear the restriction. If it were a rank 6 dragon scale, this would have been a success. With this successful experience, Wang Daoyuan took out a large dragon scale of a dragon turtle. He found several rank 5 upper rank water attribute refining materials that were known for their strength, smelted the essence with fire, and then integrated it into the dragon scale. Then he began to condense the restriction. This time, it was much faster. It only took 2 months to successfully condense the restriction. Then, he drew out a wisp of Gui water death flame to calcine the dragon scale. It was much more difficult to calcine the rank 6 dragon scale. It took more than 2 months to fuse the dragon scale and the restriction. At this step, the refining was basically completed. In order to prevent the shield from being too fragile, it still needed to be stored in the crafting furnace. Wang Daoyuan's primordial spirit took the shield into the spirit bead space and put it in the Xian cauldron, and then poured a lot of Gui water death flame into the cauldron. This year, he was busy refining, and did not pay much attention to the changes in the spirit bead space. This time he came in to see the progress of the scarlet feather. More than a year had passed outside, and more than 100 years had passed in the space. The scarlet feather was still refining the golden crow feather. After more than 100 years, the pure yang qi in the golden crow feather was only consumed less than a quarter. The scarlet feather's progress was very big, and now he was about to break through to the rank 5 upper rank. Looking at this, he did not need to refine all the yang qi in the golden crow feather to break through to the rank 6. However, it was best to suppress it, and wait until he refined all the yang qi, and then refine the golden crow blood essence hidden in the golden crow feather into his body. After that, he would cross the heavenly tribulation, and the effect of improving his bloodline would be much greater. Spirited Flame, who was in the lava lake, was still cultivating, and his cultivation had already stabilized. Wang Daoyuan did not disturb them, and checked the situation in the spirit bead space. What he saw shocked him. In this 1 year, the changes in the spirit bead space were too big. In just over a year, the spirit bead space, which was less than 500 mu, had increased to more than 700 mu. This was not because the spirit fields had increased by so much, but because there was an additional body of water. At the edge of the spirit bead space, there was an extremely pure lake. Obviously, this change was brought about by the immeasurable primordial water. At this time, Lake Xuanwu had already merged with the body of water at the edge of the space. At the place where the immeasurable primordial water was, there was a water spirit vein. The last time he saw it, it was only rank 1, but now this spirit vein had grown to rank 2 upper rank. With the nourishment of this spirit vein, the immeasurable primordial water's spirit spring water increased greatly, and Lake Xuanwu could not contain it. According to Wang Daoyuan's previous guess, either the entire spirit bead space was flooded with water, or the spirit fire dissolved the water. Previously, he had instructed his doppelganger to move the immeasurable primordial water away as soon as the spirit fields were flooded, and to a place where there was no water spirit vein. He did not expect a third situation to occur. The immeasurable primordial water had produced too much water, and it had expanded the spirit bead space. In just 1 year, it had increased by more than 200 mu. Wang Daoyuan felt that it was a little unbelievable, but after thinking about it, it made sense. Previously, the spirit bead space had slowly increased in size because of the 5 spirit fires. Spirit water and spirit fire were very similar. If spirit fire could increase the size of the spirit bead space, spirit water could naturally do the same. However, he did not expect the immeasurable primordial water to be so powerful. Now, it was only supported by a rank 2 upper rank spirit vein, and it could increase the size of the spirit bead space to such an extent. The growth of this spirit vein was not slow. In a few decades, it might even grow to rank 6. By then, the expansion of the spirit bead space would be extremely terrifying. In no time, the spirit bead space would become a vast mystic realm. And the body of water at the edge of the spirit bead space could become a lake in the future, or even a sea. Although the spirit fields did not increase by much, the increase in the body of water had great benefits. It could be used to breed aquatic spirit beasts and plants. Chapter 1040. This was especially true for the gold and silver corals he obtained from the Dragon Palace of Pan Shan Lake. The coral polyps in the corals were able to absorb metallic spirit energy and grow a metallic coral shell. As long as he used fire to refine these corals, he would be able to obtain some metal materials. Previously, there wasn't enough water in the space of the spirit pearl, so there wasn't a lot of gold and silver corals. Now that he had an additional 200 mu of water, the area of the water would only get bigger and bigger. No matter how many gold and silver corals were produced, they would be able to grow. After a few decades, some of the corals would be upgraded to the 6th grade, and they would no longer lack 6th grade metal materials. Although the water wasn't seawater, the gold-silver corals were still high-level demonic beasts. There were some problems with the water quality, but it only affected their growth speed. They could still survive. The next time he passed by the seaside, he would just fill it with seawater. Of the dozen or so gold and silver corals he had found earlier, many of them had already cultivated to the 5th rank lower grade. Under their nourishment, the outer shell of the coral would soon become a 5th grade low-grade coral. In the future, the water area in the space of the spirit pearl would rapidly increase. Even if the gold and silver corals were to multiply, there would still be enough space for them to live. Wang Daoyuan placed most of the gold and silver corals in the western waters of the spiritual pearl space. That area was closer to the metal attribute spirit vein and the Tai golden flame, so the metal attribute spirit chi was abundant there. The gold and silver corals grew there, and the speed at which they produced metal materials was also faster. The dragon egg placed beside the immeasurable primordial water had indeed undergone significant changes after absorbing the water's spiritual energy for over 100 years. There was a clear fluctuation of spiritual power on the eggshell, and its grade wasn't low. It was at least a 5th level upper grade. Of course, the grade of the eggshell did not represent the cultivation of the little dragon seed. It could only be said that the higher the grade of the eggshell, the greater the potential of the little dragon. Wang Daoyuan drew out another wisp of life spirit fire and surrounded the dragon egg. The dragon egg quickly absorbed the life force in the spiritual fire. This time, it absorbed for more than 2 hours before it stopped. Then, the dragon egg trembled. Although it was very faint, it could not hide from Wang Daoyuan's divine sense. The dragon egg trembled on its own, indicating that the little dragon inside had awakened. It was hard to say when it would hatch, but at least it was starting to move. As long as there was enough spiritual energy, hatching was only a matter of time. The dragon egg was no longer absorbing life force, so Wang Daoyuan no longer cared about him. He turned to check on the mysterious sky emerald spirit peach. After he shattered his gold core and formed his nascent soul, the mystic sky jade spirit peach bloomed a few flowers. However, due to its low grade, it could only maintain the state of a few flowers. After breaking through to the divine transformation stage, the peach tree also quickly rose to the 6th level. Now, the flowers on the peach tree had already withered. 3 of the flowers had withered, leaving behind a green lump the size of a soybean. This was the embryonic form of a peach. According to the records in the Valley of Beasts, it took more than 7,000 years for the mysterious sky jade spirit peach to mature. The flow of time in the space of the spirit pearl was 120 times faster. In the outside world, the peach would be ripe after 60 years. However, this mysterious sky emerald spirit peach was a little strange because it had nurtured the spiritual fire of life and was still providing spiritual energy to the spiritual fire of life. Wang Daoyuan wasn't sure if the spiritual fire would affect the ripening time of the peaches. One of the dragon-locking vines he had obtained in the sunset abyss had already produced seeds. The dragon-locking vine was too ferocious, so it wasn't appropriate to give it to Wang Mingxian. He needed to nurture a few more generations to kill off his wild nature. Of course, he couldn't give it to Wang Mingxian now. In order to make them more careful so that they wouldn't become rich playboys in the future, Wang Daoyuan cut off all their special treatment. The two of them could only rely on themselves to earn cultivation resources in the future. Wang Mingren was good at refining weapons and was already a third-level upper-grade weapon refiner. With such means, it wasn't a problem for him to earn hundreds of thousands of inferior-grade spirit stones a year. Wang Mingxian arranged for him to be a weapon refiner in the shop of the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce. Wang Mingxian's attainments in spirit plants had already reached 4th level inferior grade. She could be ranked in the top 10 in the entire Wang family. Wang Mingxian arranged for her to help look after the precious spirit plants in the family's spirit plant hall. He hoped that they could interact more with the lower-level disciples in the family and know that their good days didn't come easily. The 5 elements spiritual fire in the space of the spirit pearl was replenished after receiving the gift of the divine transformation mental demon tribulation. It had now grown to 6th level inferior grade. The speed of growth of the spirit fields in the space of the spirit pearl, as well as the speed of time, had also improved. After checking the situation in the space of the spirit pearl, Wang Daoyuan's primordial spirit returned to his body. After waiting for a few days, the dragon scale shield was ready. Wang Daoyuan forced out a drop of essence blood and used his divine sense to control the essence blood to condense a special master recognition inscription and fuse it with the restriction in the magic weapon. Once the fusion was successful, the master recognition inscription was also successful. The feeling of a 6th-level spirit weapon recognizing its master was obviously different from that of a magic weapon. It was more like a spirit beast recognizing its master. It felt like this spirit weapon wasn't just an object. Instead, it was like a living thing that suddenly connected with his mind. A spirit weapon with multiple restrictions also needed to separate the master recognition inscription and fuse it with other restrictions one by one. It was very difficult. However, even if all the restrictions didn't recognize its master, it could still control part of the functions of the spirit weapon. Wang Daoyuan injected spirit power into the dragon scale shield, and a huge shadow of a shield with a diameter of 10 feet instantly appeared on the shield. He condensed a sword light and attacked the shadow of the shield. When the sword light hit the shield, it only made the shadow tremble slightly. This defensive ability was considered passable. He had the Guiyuan sword intent. The sword light that he casually slashed out was comparable to the full-strength attack of most early-stage soul formation cultivators. To break through this shield shadow, he would probably need to cast a powerful spell. To be able to refine such a spirit weapon, Wang Daoyuan's refining skills could be considered to have reached the 6th level. However, this dragon scale shield was too simple. It only had one defensive restriction. Most level 6 spirit artifacts had multiple restrictions that coordinated with each other to display different effects. Next, Wang Daoyuan planned to refine 2 spirit weapons with restrictions. The raw material was still dragon scales, and the processing method was no different from before. However, during the refining process, he needed to condense 2 restrictions, and the requirements for his divine sense were even higher. In addition to the defensive restriction, there was also a water-repelling restriction. It could use the power of water to enhance its defensive ability. It could also divert the enemy's attack into the water. Fighting in the water, it could unleash extremely powerful power. The Yan Kingdom no longer had any opponents in Beiyuan. In the future, their enemies would be at sea. A magic weapon with a little water-repelling ability could play a great role. With his previous experience, it didn't take him much effort this time. It only took him 4 months to complete the refinement of the 2 enchantments. Then, he put it into the Xian cauldron in the space of the spiritual pearl to be nurtured. At this moment, Zhou came to the cave abode. At this moment, Zhou expression was very calm, without a trace of emotion. It seemed that her mind was extremely calm. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Are you ready to transcend the tribulation?" Zhou nodded. "My mind has calmed down. I didn't have any inner demons in the first place. After meeting you, everything went very smoothly. Back then, I was determined to make the Su family pay the price. Now that the Su family's people who harmed my father have been executed, this matter has been resolved. Although 2 of our 3 children are not easy to worry about, at least their talents are not bad. My only regret is that my parents couldn't see this day. It's okay to be a little regretful. I have too many regrets. It's not a big deal to experience dozens of illusions in the inner demon tribulation of the semi-god realm. Your essence, energy, and spirit are perfect now, and your divine sense is not bad. In the inner demon tribulation, you should have father-in-law and mother-in-law living a very happy life. At the same time, the memories of the real world will slowly appear. As long as you can believe in the memories of the real world and give up your happy life, you can jump out of the illusion. It's that simple. Simple. Your memories of the real world and the illusion will all disappear. Then, as time goes by, your real memories will be restored little by little. Who would be willing to believe that everything in front of them is an illusion and accept the tragic memories? If you can't accept the real memories and sink into the illusion, your divine sense will be exhausted. Once your divine sense is gone, your soul will begin to be consumed. When your soul is exhausted, you will die completely, and you won't even have a chance to be reincarnated. The semi-god realm inner demon tribulation is more terrifying than other heavenly tribulations. The dangers of other heavenly tribulations can be seen, but the dangers of the inner demon tribulation can't. Zhou still looked calm, and Wang Daoyuan was relieved. Since her state of mind was so calm, there would be no problem for her to pass the inner demon tribulation. Since you can remain unmoved, the possibility of you passing the inner demon tribulation is very high. You don't have to worry too much about your father-in-law and mother-in-law. When our cultivation is high in the future, let's go to the underworld together. If your father-in-law and mother-in-law's souls haven't been reincarnated, we can let them cultivate the ghost immortal Tao. If they have been reincarnated, we can find their reincarnated bodies and let them live a good life. Zhou smiled. In this way, my only regret can be eliminated a lot. With a chance to make up for regret, the impact of the inner demon tribulation will be smaller. Let's first temper our yuanying in this cave. When the tempering is about to be completed, we will fly to the desert in the north. Zhou didn't say anything, and just nodded. Wang Daoyuan's hands drew out the Gui water hell flame and the scarlet yang true fire. The flames burned quietly, constantly emitting pure yin and pure yang qi. The 2 spiritual fires had already reached the 6th level. The pure yin and pure yang qi could naturally be used to temper the yuanying. Zhou began to circulate her cultivation method, drawing the pure yin and pure yang qi into her body. As the pure yin and pure yang qi refined increased, Zhou essence, energy, and spirit also slowly strengthened. The tempering of the yuanying lasted for 3 years. One day after 3 years, Zhou suddenly stopped absorbing the pure yin and pure yang qi. Dao Yuan, I have already felt a trace of heavenly might. If we continue to temper the yuanying, I'm afraid the heavenly tribulation will come soon. There are many family properties nearby, so we can't transcend the tribulation here. Let's go to the northern mountain desert. After tempering there for a while, the heavenly tribulation will come. Wang Daoyuan nodded. Then let's go to the northern mountain desert first. The 2 of them took Lei Peng's flying boat and headed northwest. This time, he didn't go to the falling star plain to show off. After all, the semi-god realm tribulation of human cultivators was too powerful. When he was transcending the tribulation, the power of the tribulation spread out and turned a volcanic island into a scene of devastation. Zhou semi-god realm tribulation should be inferior to his, but it couldn't be taken lightly. The flying boat flew northwest for more than 6 hours and arrived near the boundary between the human race and the demon race in the northern mountain desert. Now that the demon race in the northern mountain desert had retreated to the depths of the ice field, the territory in the northern mountain desert naturally belonged to the Yen kingdom. They had just dealt with the demon race, so there were very few itinerant cultivators north of the boundary. This place was in the center of the desert, so no one would come to disturb them. After putting away the flying boat, Wang Daoyuan released the Gui water hell flame and the scarlet yang true fire. Zhou Wan continued to absorb the pure yin and pure yang qi to temper the yuanying. More than 10 days later, Zhou Wan stopped absorbing. Dao Yuan, the heavenly tribulation is coming. I don't need to temper the yuanying anymore. Wang Daoyuan put away the spiritual fire. Don't worry about the tribulation. The child and I will wait for you to come back. Then, a dark cloud appeared out of nowhere in the sky. The cloud layer absorbed the surrounding spiritual qi and quickly expanded. Chapter 1041. Zhou Wan adjusted her state of mind. Daoyuan, I'm going to start the tribulation. Stay away. Wang Daoyuan nodded and flew out of the range of the dark clouds. The tribulation cloud continued to expand and soon expanded to a diameter of 3,000 miles. It was already rare for the tribulation cloud to reach such a level during the soul formation heavenly tribulation. Someone like Wang Daoyuan, whose tribulation cloud could reach 5,000 miles, was a level that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. After the tribulation cloud stopped expanding, a vortex appeared in the center. It was the same when Wang Daoyuan was transcending the tribulation. The inner demon tribulation would appear from this vortex. The vortex tossed and turned for a long time before a black ball fell. Wang Daoyuan was no stranger to this ball. When he was transcending the tribulation, there was a similar one. However, the diameter of his heavenly tribulation ball was the same as the millstone. This ball was only a foot in diameter. The ball floated above Zhou Wan's head and released a suction force. Soon, Zhou Wan's yuanying left her body involuntarily. The ball instantly wrapped her yuanying. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to check the situation under the tribulation cloud casually. He didn't know how Zhou Wan's illusion was like. However, wisps of black gas kept escaping from this black ball. Without the restriction of the ball, the black gas became violent. The surrounding yellow sand was rolled up by the black gas, forming a huge sandstorm. The nearest oasis was 20,000 to 30,000 miles away. No matter how strong the black gas was, it couldn't affect so far away. Wang Daoyuan didn't care about the sandstorm. The tribulation cloud within a radius of thousands of miles naturally alarmed many cultivators. However, they could also feel the terrifying aura, so they didn't dare to come over easily. No one could help the inner demon tribulation. Wang Daoyuan could only watch. A day passed quickly. The place where Zhou Wan was transcending the tribulation was already surrounded by sand and black gas. Wang Daoyuan couldn't check what was going on inside. The Yao clan had just been crippled, and this was the Wang clan's territory, so no one dared to court death here. Wang Daoyuan was very anxious, but there was nothing he could do to help. He controlled Lei Peng's flying boat to circle around the area covered in sand and dust. Another 2 days passed, and Wang Daoyuan was getting a little anxious. Back then, no matter how many illusions he fell into, it only took him 4 days. When he was comprehending the Tao after breaking out of the illusion, his divine sense was still exhausted. Although Zhou Wan's essence, energy, and spirit had reached perfection, her foundation was far inferior to his. The amount of time he could last in the heart demon illusion was probably not as long as his. If this continued, there was a real possibility that he would fail to break through. On the 4th day, the black gas that shrouded the tribulation clouds gradually dissipated, and the dust gradually decreased. Half a day later, the dust and black gas completely disappeared, and the tribulation clouds in the sky turned white. Zhou Wan's figure appeared. Within a radius of 3,000 miles around her, all the yellow sand had disappeared, revealing the rocks below. At this moment, these rocks were covered with spiderweb-like cracks. Zhou Wan's expression was neither sad nor happy. Although her eyes were closed, she looked very calm. She should be watching the evolution of the laws after breaking out of the illusion. At this point, there was no danger at all. Wang Daoyuan was no longer worried. He put away the flying boat and waited near Zhou Wan. After 2 hours, Zhou Wan fell asleep, and Yuanying returned on her own. At this moment, another vortex appeared in the white clouds in the sky. Soon after, a transparent raindrop fell from the vortex. This raindrop did not leak any energy. It looked no different from ordinary raindrops. When Wang Daoyuan's own soul formation realm gift fell, he was asleep and did not see this scene with his own eyes. He probed with his divine sense and found a majestic energy inside. The raindrop fell on Zhou Wan's head and disappeared instantly. Then, the spiritual power fluctuations on Zhou Wan's body soared instantly. In less than 10 breaths, Zhou Wan woke up. She hurriedly circulated her cultivation method to refine the power of heaven and earth and turned Yuanying into a primordial spirit. More than an hour later, she opened her eyes and looked for Wang Daoyuan. Then she said via voice transmission, "Daoyuan, there are too many gifts of heaven and earth in my body. I can't use them all. Quickly put me into your portable secret realm so that I won't dissipate around and waste such a good thing." Wang Daoyuan flew over and said in a low voice, "I think I need the gifts of heaven and earth more than the secret realm." Zhou Wan pinched him. "Let's go back to the cave abode first." Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. He immediately summoned the Lei Peng flying boat, released his clone to control the flying boat, and carried Zhou Wan into the cabin. "It will take a few hours to return to the Jade Spring Peak from here. How can we waste such a good cultivation opportunity?" Soon, the two of them connected their meridians through the yin-yang art. The gifts of heaven and earth in Zhou Wan's body flowed into Wang Daoyuan's body continuously. The flying boat was not in a hurry to return to the Jade Spring Peak. Instead, it headed east. After flying for tens of thousands of miles along the heaven/mountain range, they crossed the heaven/mountain range from the 9 heavens astral wind layer and arrived at the Purple Gold River Valley. The flying boat stopped at the west end of the Purple Gold River Valley. It was foggy here, and no one would disturb them. More than a month later, Zhou Wan's gifts of heaven and earth were completely used up. She only used about 20% of it, and Wang Daoyuan used more than 40%. The rest was sent into the space of the spiritual pearl. Especially the spirit vein in the immeasurable true water, which had received a lot of gifts of heaven and earth. In these few years, the water spirit vein had grown to the 3rd grade. This time, with the help of the gifts of heaven and earth, it had broken through to the 4th grade. Even the immeasurable true water and the dragon egg had received a lot of benefits. Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had improved a lot, although he had not broken through to the middle stage of the divine transformation realm. But these 40% gifts of heaven and earth were comparable to decades of hard work. In the cabin, the two of them were lying on a large carved bed. Zhou Wan stretched. "My gifts of heaven and earth have been used up. Should we go back?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. "I really don't want to go. It's pretty good to stay here." Zhou Wan's body turned into a flame and disappeared from his arms. When she reappeared, she was wearing a red dress and sitting in front of the dressing table. "We disappeared for more than a month, and we disappeared on Lei Peng's flying boat. If we don't go back, I'm afraid there will be rumors that we left Beiyuan Shushin again." Wang Daoyuan was about to tease her when the dragon egg in the space of the spiritual pearl moved. The entire dragon egg was shaking violently, and it looked like it was going to break at any moment. This guy had stayed in the space of the spiritual pearl for hundreds of years, and the spiritual power fluctuations on the eggshell had already reached the low-grade 6th tier. The life force fluctuations that were faintly emitted were also very stable. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly took out the dragon egg. Zhou Wan saw the dragon egg and immediately became interested. "What? You learned how to lay eggs?" F***CKU, this is the dragon egg that we found in the Pan Shan Lake Dragon Palace. It has stayed in the space of the spiritual pearl for hundreds of years, and now it looks like it's about to hatch. Previously, I was worried that the little dragon inside was too weak, so I didn't let it recognize me as its master. But now, it looks like this little guy's life force is already very tenacious, and it should be able to withstand the impact of the restriction. Dragon breeds all have the pride of the dragon clan. If it doesn't recognize me as its master, it will definitely not be disciplined in the future. Zhou Wan sensed the aura of the dragon egg. It's a pity that it's a water-type dragon. I'm not suitable for it to recognize me as its master. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Don't worry, there are many Phoenix clan bloodlines in the heaven/mountain range. It won't be difficult to find a phoenix bird spirit beast for you in the future." Then, Wang Daoyuan forced out a drop of blood essence, released his divine sense, and mixed it with the blood essence to draw an extremely complicated master recognition restriction. This was also the inheritance left behind by the All-Beast Supreme God in the Valley of Beasts. This kind of high-level master recognition secret technique couldn't be used at all without the cultivation of the soul formation realm. After the master recognition restriction was completed, Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to control the restriction and landed on the dragon egg. The eggshell of the dragon egg was also a kind of heavenly treasure. With this thing blocking it, it would be a bit difficult to make the dragon seed recognize him as its master. He muttered something and wrapped the dragon egg with pure water spiritual power. The little dragon seed inside wanted to break out of its shell and needed spiritual power to replenish its consumption. Sensing the water spiritual power, it absorbed it crazily. The restriction also took the opportunity to enter the eggshell, and the master recognition restriction was soon completed. Wang Daoyuan could sense the emotional changes of the dragon seed through the master recognition restriction. It was just that with the eggshell, he couldn't sense it clearly. Wang Daoyuan continued to inject water spiritual power into the dragon egg. With the effect of the master recognition restriction, the little dragon seed was not vigilant and absorbed the spiritual power more rapidly. The spiritual power fluctuations coming from the eggshell were also getting stronger and stronger. A crack appeared on the eggshell, and then a small piece of the eggshell was pushed up. The little dragon seed was a little tired after holding it up for a long time, so it stopped to rest for a while. Wang Daoyuan took out the Azure Dragon Pearl and performed the Azure Dragon Revitalization technique to inject some vitality into the little guy. The raw materials of the Azure Dragon Pearl were pseudo-dragon pearls, and a large amount of dragon aura was integrated during the cultivation process, which made the little dragon seed feel very close to it. It desperately swallowed vitality, recovered its strength quickly, and continued to push the eggshell. After a lot of effort, it finally broke a piece of the eggshell the size of a little fingernail, revealing its nose and 2 teeth. It also put away its teeth and looked outside with its eyes facing the hole. Wang Daoyuan looked at it, and the little guy let out a friendly cry. This cry was somewhat similar to a dragon's roar, but it was a little childish. Then it stuck its 2 teeth out of the hole and began to gnaw on the eggshell. This little dragon seed's teeth were really powerful. The eggshell had reached the 6th level, but it could still bite it. Under its constant gnawing, the hole in the eggshell became bigger and bigger. After an hour, the hole in the eggshell was already the size of a copper coin. A black jade-like dragon head drilled out of the hole. There were 2 petite dragon horns on its head. Although they were only half an inch long, there was already a bifurcation. There were also 2-inch-long fleshy whiskers around its mouth, and sparse mane grew on the back of its neck. Its 2 black and shiny eyes were rolling around, and it didn't look like an honest child at first glance. Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart. The dragon head looked no different from a real dragon. Just by looking at this point, the bloodline of this dragon seed was not low. Wang Daoyuan stretched out a finger and touched the little dragon seed's head. It also rubbed its head against his finger very affectionately, and let out a coquettish dragon cry. Then, its whole body drilled out of the dragon egg. The little guy's dragon body was 7 or 8 inches long, and it was only as thick as an adult's finger. Wang Daoyuan looked at the little dragon seed's body, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. This little guy's body is exactly the same as a real dragon, and it even has 4 claws and 4 fingers. The limit of a flood dragon was 4 claws and 3 fingers. Even so, there was a chance to transform into a real dragon. And this little guy had 4 claws and 4 fingers as soon as it was born, and its bloodline crushed all flood dragons. It seemed that ancestor Myriad Spirits was right. At least one of this guy's parents was a true dragon. And the other had to be a flood dragon with extremely pure bloodline. After all, true dragons were more particular, unlike those mixed blood dragons who didn't care about anything. This little guy had a cultivation level of the lower 3rd level as soon as it came out of the eggshell, and was very close to a true dragon. In the future, when it broke through a major realm, there would be a bloodline heavenly tribulation, and it could also increase the purity of its bloodline. As long as it cultivated step by step, it would naturally transform into a true dragon. The little guy rubbed against Wang Daoyuan's body, and then turned around to continue gnawing on the dragon eggshell. Zhou Wan looked at the little dragon that looked like it was carved out of black jade, and she also liked it very much. Just as she reached out to touch it, the little dragon avoided her with a wary look, and also dragged the dragon eggshell behind Wang Daoyuan, for fear that it would be snatched away. Chapter 1042. The little dragon's stingy look made Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan laugh. Wang Daoyuan mocked, "You always say that I'm disgusted by dogs, but now it seems that it's someone else who's disgusted by dogs." Zhou Wan was about to hit him, but Wang Daoyuan hurriedly begged for mercy, "Shadow Master, please spare me." Zhou Wan withdrew her fist. The little dragon looked at the two's actions and fell into deep thought. After a while, it crawled to Zhou Wan's hand and rubbed its head. Zhou Wan patted its little head with satisfaction. The little dragon looked docile. Wang Daoyuan was furious, such a small dragon cub, and it's so easily swayed. It knows so much as soon as it was born, it must have awakened part of its inherited memories. It can awaken inherited memories at birth. It seems that the purity of the dragon blood is high enough. Then she threw the eggshell to it. "Eat your eggshell first." The eggshell of a divine beast's bloodline is related to its future growth. The little dragon hugged the eggshell and gnawed on it. This little guy is so obedient, but it's a male. Being male also had its advantages. The dragon race was famous for its hard body, and the Wang family raised a lot of Xinjiang carps. With the black dragon, the Wang family would not lack dragon fish in the future. In the future, the little fish born from the Xinjiang carps would be half-divine beasts, and their dragon bloodline would be far superior to the Wang Xianlong and the Wang Minglong. In addition to the Jade Spring Peak, the Wang family might be able to raise a group of half-divine beasts in the future. Wang Daoyuan sighed, "My life, the spirit beasts I raise are all male except for the queen bee." Zhou Wan frowned, "What? You want to give birth to a half-demon?" Wang Daoyuan immediately reacted, "How can that be? Don't you know who I am? I know who you are too well. Send me into the space of the spirit pearl, I want to see the queen bee." I was worried that you would misunderstand, so I didn't let her transform. Of course, he did not dare to resist, and could only put Zhou Wan into the space of the spirit pearl. Zhou Wan disappeared on the spot, and Wang Daoyuan looked at Xiaolong with a smile. Xiaolong was a little surprised at first, but then with a flattering expression on his face, he crawled to Wang Daoyuan's side and rubbed his head against his leg. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't stoop to its level. He patted its little head and said, "Eat your eggshell properly." "Oh right, you don't have a name yet, it's not good to keep calling you Xiaolong. I already have an abyss dragon and a mystery dragon at home. Since you're all black, you're most likely a deep sea ink jade dragon. I'll call you Ink Dragon then." The deep sea ink jade dragon was also a dragon that was good at controlling water. Its strength was not considered weak, and it was considered to be above average among the dragon race. It was slightly stronger than the 12th uncle's Purple Palace avatar, but of course, it was far weaker than the 9 Netherworld dragon. However, no matter how weak a true dragon was, it was still a true divine beast. As long as it could transform into a true dragon, it would not have a problem growing to the 8th level. The little guy's spiritual intelligence was not low. Although it could not speak yet, it could understand human language. After hearing the name Wang Daoyuan gave it, it nodded with satisfaction and continued to gnaw on its eggshell. Wang Daoyuan sent it into the space of the spirit pearl together with its eggshell, and his own primordial spirit also entered the space of the spirit pearl. At this time, the old queen bee was trembling in her hive. It seemed that she had been tortured. Zhou Wan was now checking the Jianghu gourd one by one to see if Wang Daoyuan was hiding a beauty in the gourd. In the past 3 years, the water in the space of the spirit pearl had increased dramatically. The area of the spiritual fields, including the fish pond and Xuanwu Lake, was only slightly more than 500 mu. And the new water at the edge of the space had already exceeded 1,000 mu. In the first year, the water area increased by 200 mu, and in the next 3 years, it increased by more than 900 mu. Looking at this situation, the water area would increase faster and faster. Of course, the number of aquatic demon beasts and aquatic spiritual plants was also increasing dramatically. With sufficient space, they were able to reproduce as much as they could. The Qing River carp, which was originally raised in the Qingshui area in the north of Xuanwu Lake, and several other pseudo-spiritual fish, were breeding in large numbers. Now, they could be seen everywhere in the water. Especially the Qing River carp, which liked to live in clear water. The spiritual spring water produced by the immeasurable true water could be said to be rare and clear, which was the most suitable for their survival. Although corals did not like fresh water, the spiritual power in the water was abundant, and they were breeding a lot. The gold and silver corals, which Wang Daoyuan valued the most, had bred more than 50 stalks. However, the newly bred coral polyps were still too small and did not grow a large coral shell. Their grades were also relatively low, only at the 2nd level. It would take a long time for them to grow to the 5th or 6th level. On the other hand, the star-patterned sea cucumber did not breed much, mainly because of the food problem. Although they did not care whether it was seawater or not, their food did. The star-patterned sea cucumber's main food was star algae, which was an extremely small kind of seaweed. It usually floated on the surface of the sea and absorbed the power of the stars. Star algae had to live in seawater, so the only place that could breed star-patterned sea cucumbers was the less than 100 mu seawall. The spiritual spring water produced by the immeasurable true water was very good for refining pills. However, it was too pure and could not be turned into seawater. Zhou Wan quickly searched through all the gourds, but did not find any beauties. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Am I the kind of person who eats from the bowl and looks at the pot? I am loyal and devoted to Lord Shadow Lord, and I definitely did not let you down." Zhou Wan snorted coldly. "You pass." At this moment, she raised her head and exclaimed, "When did your secret realm have such a large body of water? The original spiritual fields have all become islands. You came in for so long and only found this? Isn't it because of the immeasurable true water? This thing was placed in the secret realm and nurtured a spiritual vein. With the spiritual energy provided by the spiritual vein, it can continuously produce water from afar. I was originally worried that too much water would flood the spiritual fields, but I didn't expect that the extra water would expand the space in the spiritual pearl. In just a few years, more than 1,000 mu of water has been added. In a few hundred years, there will be a sea here." Zhou Wan immediately became spirited. "Then won't we be able to raise more delicious aquatic spiritual beasts?" Wang Daoyuan was also speechless. "Let's not talk about other things, we have enough Qingjiang carps. Later, I will ask Mingchen to collect more freshwater fish and raise them in the space in the spiritual pearl. When the time comes, you can eat whatever you want. Lord Shadow Lord, we should go back. It just so happens that you have successfully broken through, so this deification ceremony can't be delayed any longer. The last time Beiyuan Xiuxian held a deification ceremony should be more than 20,000 years ago. This time, 2 deification cultivators are holding the deification ceremony together, so Yuanian cultivators from other forces will definitely come to listen to our preaching. Can't you bring more things to listen to the preaching?" Zhou Wan's face was full of disdain. Beiyuan Xiuxian doesn't have many 5th-tier crafting materials and spiritual plants. You are a deification cultivator, why do you care about these things? A low grade doesn't mean it's worthless. With the space in the spiritual pearl, 4th tier crafting materials will become 5th tier in a few years. If their grade drops to 4th tier, high-grade spiritual plants can also recover their grade after a few years in the spiritual pearl. You don't know the cost of living until you are in charge. It's not easy to collect spiritual plants. He ordered his clone to drive the flying boat back to Qingli City. The two of them also came out of the spiritual pearl. As for Mo Long, he naturally stayed in the spiritual pearl so that he could grow faster. Of course, he could also cultivate a relationship with those Qingjiang carps. The spiritual beasts in the spiritual pearl were all busy cultivating. Only Yun Yi, the loafer, was lazy and liked to bully the weak. Wang Daoyuan also warned her not to bully Mo Long and asked Xian Xian to help watch over him. Once Yun Yi was not obedient, she would help him expel the cold. The flying boat soon arrived at the imperial palace of Qingli City. Wang Daoyuan put away the flying boat and went to the imperial study with Zhou Wan. Wang Mingchen hurriedly bowed. Mother, you have also broken through to the deification realm. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, no need to be so polite. Now that your mother has also broken through, don't delay the deification ceremony anymore. For this deification ceremony, I'm afraid that all the Yuanian cultivators in Beiyuan Xiuxian will come. With so many experts, the Jade Spring Peak can't hold it. Let's hold it in Qingli City. If all the Yuanian cultivators in Beiyuan come together, then we will need more time to prepare, so as not to lose face for the Yan Kingdom. It will probably take a year to complete the preparations. Wang Daoyuan nodded. As long as you know what to do, I will leave this matter to you. Then, he took the ink dragon out of the space of the spiritual pearl. Ancestor Myriad Spirits, can you see if this little guy is a pure-blooded true dragon or half a true dragon? Ancestor Myriad Spirits appeared and stared at the little guy for a long time, his eyes filled with anger. The ink dragon was a little scared and hurriedly crawled behind Wang Daoyuan's neck. Although the little guy couldn't fly yet, its movements were really clever. After staying in the space of the spiritual pearl for so long, it had finished eating the eggshell and its body had grown to 1 foot long. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly put the ink dragon back into the space of the spiritual pearl so as not to scare the little guy. Ancestor Myriad Spirits, what's wrong with you? Ancestor Myriad Spirits sighed. When I saw the son of my enemy, I remembered some bad things. Are you saying that this little guy is the son of the evil dragon back then? Ancestor Myriad Spirits nodded. The aura of this little dragon is very similar to his. When the evil dragon attacked the Valley of Beasts, there were a few flood dragons with him. This little guy has the aura of one of the flood dragons, so he should be the descendant of the evil dragon and the flood dragon. Forget it. Although I have a grudge with this little guy, it's all in the past. There's no need to bully such a little dragon cub. After a dragon goes through the tribulation, the mixed blood in its body will be completely eliminated. That evil dragon back then was definitely a pure true dragon. This little dragon cub's father is a true dragon, and his mother is also a half-divine beast with a high concentration of dragon blood. The dragon blood in his body should be about 70%. Dragon blood has an extremely strong suppressive effect on the bloodline of ordinary beasts. He doesn't need to refine his own bloodline. He just needs to cultivate step by step. When he breaks through to the 7th rank, he can go through the tribulation. Ancestor Myriad Spirits' words matched Wang Daoyuan's guess. Since the appearance of the ultimate heaven abyss, the dragons of Beiyuan Xiuxian had all retreated to the south of the abyss. They all left calmly, so there was no reason for them to leave a dragon egg behind. However, this little guy had stayed in the dragon palace of Pan Shan Lake and hadn't hatched after tens of thousands of years. It must be that his parents didn't have the time to bring him along. Moreover, when he was born, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth shouldn't be sufficient. Otherwise, with the conditions of the dragon palace of Pan Shan Lake, he would have hatched long ago. One of his parents was a true dragon, and he was born in an era when spiritual energy wasn't sufficient. he could only be the son of that evil dragon back then. Not long after this little guy was born, his parents probably went to fight to the death with the Valley of Beasts. After that, they all died in the Valley of Beasts, so no one cared about this dragon egg. If the dragon egg wanted to hatch, it needed a huge amount of dragon energy. The purer the dragon blood, the higher the requirement for dragon energy. In order to let the dragon egg hatch as soon as possible, the little dragon's parents would usually inject dragon energy. The black dragon's parents were dead. Just relying on the spring of the dragon palace of Pan Shan Lake alone wasn't enough to produce enough dragon energy in a short period of time. After a long time, the dragon energy in the dragon egg was enough. Beiyuan's spiritual energy was too low, so the dragon egg fell into a deep slumber. Not long after the dragon king of Pan Shan Lake transformed into a true dragon, he brought a group of demons to the Valley of Beasts to cause trouble. Presumably, he didn't have much time to interact with the dragon egg. This little guy probably didn't have much of an impression of his parents. Wang Daoyuan wasn't worried that this little guy would be affected by the evil dragon. As long as he raised it well, it shouldn't turn into an evil dragon. Chapter 1043. At this time, Ink Dragon was coiling around the immeasurable true water in the space of the spiritual pearl. Although he was a water dragon, he didn't like Yin Qi. He wasn't like Yun Yi, who had been soaking in the water of the southern half of Xuanwu Lake full of Yin Qi. The dragon and the tiger lived in harmony. Yun Yi was forced to cultivate every day. She had lost a lot of weight and was not in the mood to bully Ink Dragon. After asking about Ink Dragon's background and telling him about the soul formation ceremony, Wang Daoyuan returned to the underground cave of the Jade Spring Peak. Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian had already gone out to do things and were no longer in the palace. Zhou Wan also didn't stay in the palace and returned to the Jade Spring Peak with Wang Daoyuan. After returning to the underground cave, Wang Daoyuan took out the second dragon scale shield that he had refined. When this shield was just refined, Zhou Wan was ready to break through to the soul formation realm. Wang Daoyuan didn't care about this shield anymore. It had been stored in the space of the spiritual pearl for more than 300 years before it was taken out. In the past 300 years, it had absorbed a lot of Yin Qi from the Gui water death flame. The entire shield had a strong Yin Qi. Of course, the water attribute spiritual power was still there. The two restrictions had been contaminated by Yin Qi and had a trace of pure Yin Qi. Originally, he planned to put this shield on the Jade Spring Peak and upgrade the array of the Jade Spring Peak so that he could use the array to control this magic weapon. Unfortunately, the Yin Qi on the shield couldn't be controlled by ordinary people. Generally speaking, pure Yin Qi wouldn't hurt people. But at the 6th level, pure Yin Qi would be too strong. Once people with insufficient cultivation were infected, their meridians would also be damaged. Now it seemed that he could only keep it for himself. Zhou Wan stared at this magic weapon for a long time before saying, "This magic weapon hasn't been refined for a long time. And the inside is not an ordinary pattern, but a legendary restriction. So, you can refine your own spiritual weapon?" Wang Daoyuan said proudly, "Of course. Don't you know who your husband is?" Zhou Wan's face was full of disdain. "If you have the ability, then refine me a spiritual tool." This time, Wang Daoyuan was in a bit of a predicament. Currently, he had quite a number of Tier 6 refining materials in his hands. However, it was mainly the materials from the Dragon Turtle and the Rank 6 Kuei Dragon. One of them was of the water attribute, while the other was of the water and lightning attributes. This kind of material was not suitable for refining fire attribute magic tools. The brilliant sun gold and the lava fire crystal were simply too precious. No one would be willing to use them as the main material to refine an artifact. Wang Daoyuan could only smile and say, "I'm lacking in refining materials. The next time we go out to sea, I'll collect some fire attribute materials and refine another one for you. However, your natal Dharma artifact can be improved." The lava fire crystals that he swindled from the Wen clan were not bad. He could smelt a part of it. The lava fire crystal could absorb the spiritual fire essence. In the future, when he used the Crimson Luan's Nirvana flame to nurture magic tools, the effect would be much better. When dealing with other fire attribute cultivators, it could also weaken their power. Zhou Wan nodded with satisfaction. My natal Dharma artifact already has an artifact spirit. The artifact pattern has already merged with the artifact spirit. There's no need to condense restrictions. It's not bad to fuse some lava fire crystals into it, but are you willing to part with such good materials? Wang Daoyuan had an indifferent look. I only need to fuse some of it into the vermilion bird fan. I don't need it in other places. How much energy did I spend on Lord Shadow Master? Why would I care about these little refining materials? At least you still have some conscience. After saying that, she took out the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword and handed it over to Wang Daoyuan. The Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword already had an artifact spirit. No matter what modifications were made to it, there was no need to care about the artifact pattern and restrictions. He only needed to fuse the new materials into the magic tool. The rest could be left to the artifact spirit. Wang Daoyuan took out a fist-sized fire-red crystal. His right hand formed a sword finger and lightly waved it. A red crystal the size of an adult's thumb was cut off. The cut was smooth and flat, without any signs of cracking. Zhou Wan was a little surprised. The strength of this lava fire crystal is comparable to that of a 6th-level low-grade magic tool. You actually cut it off with your bare hands. When did your attainments in the way of the sword become so powerful? What's so strange about that? Don't you always praise me for being powerful? Zhou Wan picked up the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword and was about to attack. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly begged for mercy. Let's talk on the bed. Don't be angry. When Wang Daoyuan was cultivating, he would take out the origin returning sword diagram and take a look at it to comprehend the sword intent within. Although he did not put too much effort into it, the growth of the origin returning sword intent was not slow. Now that he had fused more than 10 sword intents, he could just casually comprehend a bit. As long as he could match a certain sword intent, the power of the origin returning sword intent would increase. He summoned a wisp of Crimson Sun True Fire and wrapped it around the lava fire crystal. Wang Daoyuan did not care about the strength of this thing, but its fire resistance was really high. He used the Crimson Sun True Fire to burn it for more than 10 days before he could melt a small piece of lava fire crystal. The lava fire crystal itself was a metal material. It had been roasted in the earth fire for who knows how many years. All lava fire crystals were extremely pure, with very few impurities. The one in his hand was the best of the best. It was completely transparent and did not have any impurities. It was very difficult for ordinary tool refiners to achieve this when tempering materials. This was also one of the important reasons why the lava fire crystal was so valuable. It could be directly fused into most fire-type magic tools. While increasing the power of the magic tool, it would not cause any negative effects to the magic tool. After the lava fire crystal was melted, Wang Daoyuan took out the Xian cauldron and temporarily stored the lava fire crystal inside the cauldron. He also placed the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword into the cauldron. When the sword softened a little, he fused the lava fire crystal into it. Next was some simple forging. After the forging, it would be more or less ready to be nurtured for a period of time. In less than a month, the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword was completely reforged. When the sword was first forged, it was made of third-tier materials after all. The material was not very good. When Wang Daoyuan forged the sword, he focused on removing the impurities. After the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword was reforged, the sword body became a translucent blood-red color. There were faint crimson flames flowing within it. Zhou Wan's mind moved, and the sword immediately flew into her hand. She injected spiritual energy into the sword, and a crimson sea of fire appeared in the sword body. The figure of the Crimson One appeared from time to time in the sea of fire, and the sword hummed like the cry of a phoenix. Zhou Wan nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, it is at least 30% more powerful than before. Wang Daoyuan smiled. Lord Shadow Master, I have worked hard to reforge the Crimson Luan Flowing Flames sword. Is there any reward? Zhou Wan only glanced at him, and did not say anything. Wang Daoyuan naturally understood what this meant, and immediately carried Zhou Wan to the room in the deepest part of the cave. The day of the soul formation ceremony arrived quickly. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan also left Jade Spring Peak a few days in advance, and headed to Clear Glass City to prepare for the preaching. The outer city walls of Clear Glass City did not change much, but the palace city changed a lot. On the entire city wall, one could see red decorations everywhere. The cultivators guarding the gate were all disciples of the Wang family. They were usually dressed in golden armor, but now they had changed into the Wang family's dragon and fish-patterned robes. The place for the preaching was arranged in front of the Imperial Extreme Hall, and there was a more spacious area here. Arranging it outside the palace would be too neglectful of the guests. Arranging it inside the Imperial Extreme Hall was equivalent to treating the other forces as their own subjects, and also too arrogant. Placing it outside the Imperial Extreme Hall was just treating the palace as an ordinary spacious area. It was also to express their attitude that the Wang family did not intend to use their power to oppress others. At this time, a high platform had been set up outside the Imperial Extreme Hall. This was where Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan would sit. There were dozens of short tables and prayer mats on both sides. Only the Yuanian cultivators who came to congratulate and the representatives of the royal families of various countries were qualified to sit on these prayer mats. After the two of them stayed in the palace for a few days, the day of the soul formation ceremony arrived. Wang Shui, a Yuanian cultivator and the right prime minister of the Yan kingdom, personally went to the door to welcome the guests. The person who received the gifts was Wang Mingshan, the head of the Wang family and the minister of the Honglu temple. Soon, the first guest arrived at the door. This person was someone Wang Daoyuan was familiar with. It was the emperor of the Song kingdom, Song Yan. This guy had broken through to the nascent soul stage for decades, and his talent was not bad. The Song family also had tens of thousands of years of history. Although their heritage was not as strong as that of the Zhou kingdom, it was stronger than the Qin and Zhao kingdoms. Looking at his cultivation, he should not be far from the middle stage of the Yuanian kingdom. Song Yan did not look arrogant at all. He came to the door and cupped his hands to Wang Shui. "Congratulations, Dao Yu." Wang Shui cupped his hands in return. "Emperor Song, please come in." Song Yan nodded and led a young man who was holding a gift box. This young man looked very similar to Song Yan. He was at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. He should be Song Yan's grandson. The young man followed Song Yan to the door and placed the gift box on the table. Then, he walked into the palace. It was not a big deal for the cultivators who came to congratulate him to bring one or two juniors. This young man should be highly regarded by Song Yan for coming to such an occasion. In the cultivation world, the lower the status, the earlier one came to a celebration. Although the Song kingdom was not a strong country, it was still much stronger than those small countries. With Song Yan, a Yuanian cultivator, in charge, it was already a second-rate country. Since he was the first to arrive, he had also lowered his posture. Following closely behind were the cultivators of Zheng and Wei. These two countries did not have Yuanian cultivators yet, but they did not dare to not come. The ones who came to congratulate him were the retired emperors of the two countries. They also put down their gift boxes and walked into the palace. Next were the royal families of the small countries. Regardless of whether they had a relationship with the Yan kingdom, they all came to curry favor. After the small countries arrived, the second-rate countries such as Qi, Chu, and Wu entered. Although the Zhao kingdom had two Yuanian cultivators and was considered a strong country among the other countries, its foundation was severely damaged and they did not dare to be arrogant. Along with the second-rate countries, the retired Emperor Zhao Lingshao and the Duke Zhao Jinghua came together. Then, the retired Emperor of the Qin Kingdom, Daoist Mo Lin, and the Qin Emperor came together. Once the Qin Kingdom arrived, only the Zhou Kingdom was left among the other countries. Not long after, Daoist Feng Yi came together with the Zhou Emperor and the Crown Prince Zhou Jinyuan. Wang Shi quickly went to welcome them. Daoist Feng Yi smiled. I brought my children and grandchildren to congratulate you. Wang Shui cupped his hands and said, please come in. Zhou Jingyuan carried a few big gift boxes and handed them to Wang Mingshan. Then, the group walked into the palace. Zhou Jingyuan had now broken through to the Yuanying realm. The 3 Yuanying cultivators in the Zhou kingdom could be considered the top of the other countries. Next were the 4 top forces. These forces did not hold back and all the Yuanying cultivators came. Now that the spirit energy in Beiyuan had recovered, it was time for the major forces to reshuffle. Although these major forces had a strong foundation, if a genius appeared out of nowhere, they could also occupy a place or even surpass them. The Zhou kingdom had been very strong in the past few years. It might become the 6th top force at some point. They did not want their forces to be surpassed by others. They had to seize every opportunity to improve. These forces only gave their gifts to Wang Mingshan. None of them sang a list of gifts. They knew in their hearts that with Wang Daoyuan's cultivation, it was already very difficult to find a treasure that could catch his eye in the northern abyss. If they sang a list of gifts at this time, they would be asking for trouble. After the guests arrived, they found their seats according to the strength of their forces. After everyone was seated, they cupped their hands toward the stage and said, congratulations to the retired emperor and the empress dowager for breaking through to the soul formation realm. Chapter 1044. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan did not put on airs and returned the greeting. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, when I was traveling overseas, I was lucky to obtain pure yin and pure yang spiritual items and use them to break through to the soul formation stage. Today, I'm grateful for everyone's attendance. My wife and I will talk about our understanding of breaking through to the soul formation stage. Hearing this, everyone present perked up. Wang Daoyuan did not speak first. Instead, he let Zhou Wan speak first. After all, she majored in the fire element and only had some understanding of fire element laws. She had just broken through and was not proficient in the arts of cultivation. Her understanding of laws was not deep. After she finished speaking, Wang Daoyuan could fill in the gaps. Zhou Wan also briefly talked about how she calmed her mind and overcome the regrets in her heart before breaking through to the soul formation stage. She also talked about her understanding of the soul formation stage after breaking through. Although the things she talked about were very simple, they were all the most practical things. Everyone listened attentively, afraid that they would miss out on important content. Zhou Wan finished talking very quickly. Next, it was Wang Daoyuan's turn to talk. He was born to be a pain in the ass. There was nothing to talk about in terms of mental state. However, he was a cultivator with 5 spiritual roots. He had comprehended all 5 elements and was proficient in alchemy, weapons, and talisman arrays. Therefore, the focus of the lecture was on laws. Golden Core cultivators imitated laws, Yuanying cultivators used laws, and soul formation cultivators controlled laws. At the soul formation stage, they could directly use the power of laws. They could even mobilize the power of heaven and earth through laws. When facing Yuanying cultivators of the same element, if the opponent did not have divine abilities, they could directly prevent him from using the power of laws. If Yuanying cultivators could not use the power of laws, their strength would be reduced by more than half. If they had divine abilities, then there was nothing they could do. Divine abilities were directly related to the heavenly Tao. No matter how powerful the laws were, they were still only a projection of the heavenly Tao. They could not even be considered a branch. They could use laws to suppress divine abilities, but they could not directly erase divine abilities. When Wang Daoyuan was at the peak of Yuanying, he dared to threaten Moon Sungqion, who was in the early soul formation stage. His confidence came from his domain ability. After breaking through to the soul formation realm, he had thoroughly comprehended the common inscriptions of law, and his control over the laws had greatly improved. The Yuanying cultivators had benefited a lot just by talking about his understanding of the laws. Although the Golden Core cultivators who came to congratulate him could only imitate the laws, they could be considered to have touched the edges of the laws. Even if he could only occasionally understand a few sentences, he still felt that he had benefited a lot. Wang Daoyuan's lecture lasted for more than a month. Everyone was intoxicated by it. Even Zhou Wan was listening to him attentively. After the preaching, everyone began to ask Wang Daoyuan questions regarding the areas that they did not understand. After the Yuanian cultivators asked their questions, the young man who came with Song Yan cupped his hands and said, "Junior Song and greets Senior. When I was studying the Tao of weapon refinement and reading the legacy of weapon refinement in my family, I was shocked. I know that a 6th grade Dharma artifact is not refined with a simple tool pattern, but with a more advanced restriction. I have long heard that Senior is proficient in refining artifacts, so I would like to ask about restrictions." This young man was not old, but he still had a youthful aura. He should only be 200 to 300 years old. To be able to cultivate to the mid-stage golden core stage at this age and have some attainments in refining artifacts, his talent was not bad. After all, the cultivation techniques and resources of the Song Kingdom could not be compared to the Yen Kingdom. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "With your current cultivation, you should still be a 4th grade blacksmith. Restrictions are still too far away. However, since you are a guest, I will give you a few pointers since you have asked. Restrictions are indeed not ordinary tool patterns, but a combination of tool patterns and inscriptions of law. Every restriction has a main function, such as a defensive restriction, a water-repelling restriction, and so on. Looking at restrictions is also helpful in understanding the power of the laws. I will let you take a look." After saying that, he took out the first dragon scale shield that he had refined. This dragon scale shield is the first 6th grade Dharma artifact that I have refined successfully. There is only one defensive restriction in it. Then, he injected spiritual power into it to make the restriction appear. This is the simplest 6th grade defensive restriction. It is made up of more than 5,000 6th grade basic tool patterns and more than 1,000 inscriptions of law. With so many basic inscriptions, it forms a restriction that is only 1 inch in diameter. The inscriptions of law should be mentioned in the inheritance of each family. Those below the soul formation realm cannot understand it. Just take a look. Song An looked at the restriction with an incredulous expression. On the other hand, the Grand Emperor of the Qin Kingdom looked at the shield with excitement. Don't think too much about restrictions before you reach the soul formation realm. Song An's little friend is only 200 years old, but he has cultivated to the mid-stage golden core stage and his attainments in refining artifacts are not low. Don't bite off more than you can chew. You should focus on cultivation. Song An also cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your advice, Senior." Then, the royal family of the small kingdoms asked questions. Wang Daoyuan treated them equally and patiently explained to them. There were not many forces that were qualified to attend the soul formation grand ceremony. Only the royal families of the various kingdoms and the 4 top forces were present. Not many people came, so there were not many cultivators who asked questions. In addition, Wang Daoyuan had a deep understanding of the Dharma laws, so it did not take him much effort to explain. It only took him more than 3 months to solve everyone's questions. The soul formation grand ceremony came to a successful end. The royal families of the various kingdoms left one after another. Only the 4 top forces and the royal families of the Zhou and Qin kingdoms remained. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Seniors, I think you still have something important to say. Please come into the hall for a chat, Daoyu." The remaining 6 forces, together with the Yen Kingdom, were the 7 most powerful forces in Beiyuan. Now that the demon race had been crippled, it was time for the various clans to discuss the future of the Northern Abyss immortal realm. In the hall of the Huangji Hall, Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan did not sit on the dragon throne to show respect. Instead, they placed a table under the throne to show that they were equal to everyone. After everyone was seated, Wang Daoyuan asked knowingly, "Seniors, what can I do for you?" Everyone looked at each other, but no one was willing to speak first. In the end, Immortal Yunha of the Divine Weapon Pavilion stood up and said, "Let's not beat around the bush. The monster race has been destroyed, but there should be some 5th-order monsters hiding in the dark. The heavenly mountain range is easy to deal with. As long as we are willing to spend time, we can get rid of them sooner or later. However, the Arctic ice field and the East Sea are boundless. It is too difficult to completely destroy the monster race in these two places. However, if we leave them alone, they will be able to make a comeback in a few thousand years. If something happens to the West Sea or the Southern Wasteland, the human race will be exhausted again. I'm afraid the situation 10,000 years ago will repeat itself. Therefore, other than listening to your preaching, we also want to discuss this matter. Wang Daoyuan chuckled and said, I have already prepared for this. Although the heavenly mountain range is big enough, it is not endless. I have already sent the Grey Rock to patrol frequently. If we encounter any fifth-order monsters, we will deal with them. However, now that the fifth-order monsters do not dare to show up, these guys will not be able to do anything. The Arctic ice field is boundless. It is unrealistic to go there and exterminate the monster race. I plan to arrange for some cold-loving half-demons to occupy the Arctic ice field and gradually develop deeper. We do not seek to completely exterminate the monster race. At least we can occupy the place with more resources and make the monster race unable to retaliate. As for the East Sea, I have some understanding. The further we are from the heavenly mountain range, the fewer high-tier spiritual veins there are. As long as we chase the monster race away from the coastal waters, they will not be able to do much. I have also prepared the solution. There are many small islands along the coast of the East Sea. Many of them have high-tier spiritual veins. As long as the Yen country does not stop it, it will soon become a place filled with rogue cultivators. With rogue cultivators, the monster race will slowly be pushed out of the coastal waters. Daoist Xian Tian of the Archaic Arcanum sect smiled and said, It seems like we have worried too much. Martial Nephew has already thought of a solution. After getting Wang Daoyuan's answer, the crowd did not have the intention to leave. Looking at their attitude, there should be something else. I believe that martial uncles did not stay just for this. If there is anything else, just say it. This time, Daoist Imo Lin of the Qin country spoke first. I stayed here because I have a request. The foundation of the Qin country is shallow. Although it is barely considered a first-class country, its foundation is not enough. Back then, there was only a 5th-tier mid-grade dragon scale sword, but it was destroyed when I was crossing the tribulation. Even my son's tribulation relied on brute force. I want to ask martial nephew Daoyuan to help me refine a 5th-tier mid-grade magic weapon. Of course, I will not let you do it for free. After saying that, he took out a gourd. This gourd was dark blue and about a foot tall. Looking at the spiritual power fluctuation, it was 5th-tier low-grade and very close to 5th-tier mid-grade. The gourd was not opened, so there should be gourd seeds inside. The break on the gourd vine was still relatively fresh, so it should have been picked not long ago. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan also felt a faint spatial fluctuation coming from the gourd. There was no doubt that there should be spatial laws in this gourd. This gourd was personally cultivated with spiritual power after I formed my nascent soul. I originally planned to use this thing to refine a defensive magic weapon. However, the Qin state currently does not have a 5th-tier blacksmith, so I really do not have the ability to refine it myself. The other cultivators who broke through together with him at the Archaic Mysteries sect had already cultivated to the middle stage of yuanying. Only the Qin state's retired emperor was still at the early stage of yuanying. It seemed that he used a large amount of spiritual power to cultivate the gourd. His family was not as rich as other forces, so for the future of his descendants, he could only sacrifice his own path. Lei Yen Jinren looked at the gourd and smiled. I heard that the Qin state had a gourd vine that was quite extraordinary. Every 500 years, it could grow a 4th-tier peak gourd. It seems that it should be this jade water gourd. Wang Daoyuan had heard of the jade water gourd. Since he started refining the Yi Wood Qingquan gourd, he paid special attention to collecting gourd-type spiritual plants. This thing's grade was not low. It could at least grow to 5th-tier peak, and it was said that it could grow to 6th-tier low grade. If it was cultivated in the space of the spiritual bead, it would grow to 6th tier without a doubt. The biggest advantage of the jade water gourd was that it grew quickly. A 5th tier upper grade spiritual plant only needed 500 years to grow a 4th tier peak gourd, which was similar to the mystic essence gourd. Coupled with the time acceleration function of the spiritual bead, it only needed 4 years to grow another one. Moreover, the spiritual power in the spiritual bead was extremely abundant. Coupled with the life spiritual fire, the growth speed would only be faster. The jade water gourd was a water-type gourd. Water was wood. Naturally, it could be used to refine the Qingquan gourd and cultivate other spiritual plants. If he could refine a 6th tier Qingquan gourd, most 5th tier spiritual plants could be planted in it. The value was too great. Wang Daoyuan nodded. This jade water gourd is very useful to me. It's not a problem to exchange it for a 5th tier upper grade magic weapon. What kind of magic weapon does Martial Uncle Mo Lin want? Spiritual Master Mo Lin was overjoyed. I want a defensive magic weapon to help my descendants resist the nascent soul tribulation. Sure. The Qin state's legacy should be of the water type. I still have many 5th tier upper grade water type dragon scales. Refining a 5th tier upper grade shield shouldn't be a problem. Spiritual Master Mo Lin handed the gourd to Wang Shui. Thank you, Your Majesty. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand. You're welcome. Seniors, if you have anything else to say, just say it. Chapter 1045. Daoist Shantian stood up and said, Heaven/mountain range, extreme frost ice plains, and the East Sea demon race can't do much, but the West Sea demon race is still rampant. It's not difficult for the Archaic Mysteries sect to guard the mountain gate, but if you encounter many demon kings, you won't be able to defend against them. I want to ask for your help to raise the Archaic Mysteries sect's ancestral yin-yang compass to level 6. Of course, I won't ask for your help for free. I can use the Archaic Mysteries sect's complete aura examination technique in exchange. The Archaic Mysteries sect's aura examination technique was a good thing. Other than seeing a person's luck, it could also see through the heavens and predict good or bad luck. Back when he was still in the Foundation establishment stage, Xian Zhouxiao could see that he was about to face a bloody calamity. In the end, he was seriously injured by Zhou Wan's sword and took a few years to recover. Other than that, the aura examination technique could also detect hidden enemies. The enemy could hide their body and aura, but they couldn't hide their luck. Wang Daoyuan had read many books, but he had never heard of a method to hide one's luck. Every living thing had its own luck. Even some dead things had their own luck, such as refined corpses and magic weapons. Dead objects with strong karmic luck could nurture the spirit race. The aura examination technique had two fatal flaws. One was that it consumed a lot of divine sense. The other was that if the aura examination technique was too strong, it would backfire and injure one's soul. There was also the possibility of being struck by lightning. The yin-yang old ancestor and the myriad spirit old ancestor were warned by heavenly thunder for spying on their own luck. These 2 points weren't a problem for Wang Daoyuan. He could quickly recover his divine sense, so he didn't need to care about the consumption. Even if he was facing a strong opponent and couldn't use his cultivation technique, he could still use a secret technique to convert his spirit energy into divine sense. As for the backlash of luck, whose luck could be stronger than his? The other children of luck were either not born or had low cultivation. Their luck was too weak. Martial Uncle Shantian is really generous. Since Martial Uncle is willing to exchange the aura examination technique, it's naturally not a problem. It's just that it might take a long time to nurture it to level 6. Daoist Master Xian Tian smiled and said, It's fine. Let Zhou Xiao wait here. When the yin-yang compass is ready, let him take it away. As expected of the old fox, he placed Xian Zhouxiao here so that he could ask some questions about cultivation. Of course, he did not lose anything in this matter, so there was no problem in letting Xian Zhouxiao stay. In the future, the Archaic Mysteries sect would play an important role in tying all the major powers in Beiyuan to his worship. As per Martial Uncle Xuantian's words, let Brother Zhouxiao stay in the Yan Kingdom for the time being. As for the other martial uncles, if there's anything else, please feel free to tell me. Zhou Guiye and the other two looked as if nothing had happened. Immortal Cloud Crane was also calm and composed. There was not a single Yuanying fiendish cultivator in the southern wasteland. Let alone the fiend race, Wang Daoyuan had already entered the heaven-decimating abyss to sweep through quite a few times. Not a single one dared to show themselves. The Wind-Snow Deity Palace's Daoist master Han Shuang's face was like a 10,000-year-old iceberg, without the slightest change. The group of people from the Wind-Snow Deity Palace stayed in the world of ice and snow all day long, and would not come out easily. Now that the fiend race in the Arctic ice plains had been crippled, and Wang Daoyuan had also left behind a backup plan, they should be fine. Instead, it was Immortal Swordless who spoke. Our Tai Sword sect is also near the West Sea. If the fiend race in the West Sea were to rebel, we would have to help the Archaic Mysteries sect to resist the enemy. Junior Martial Brother Daoyuan, please help nurture the Demon Slayer sword to the 6th tier. If the fiend race in the West Sea were to invade, the Demon Slayer sword and the Yin Yang compass would be able to deal with the 6th tier fiend race for a while. Nurturing a 5th tier magic weapon to the 6th tier would surely take a lot of effort. Naturally, I cannot let Junior Martial Brother work in vain. After saying that, he took out a beast skin book. There were many shallow cracks on the cover of the book, and the whole book was slightly yellowed. It seemed to be quite old. This book records a special refining method. Back then, the ancestors of our Tai Sword sect predicted that the spiritual energy in Beiyuan would become lower and lower. A few divine transformation grandmasters who were proficient in refining created this kind of pseudo-restriction refining method. A real restriction requires the use of divine consciousness to trigger the laws to condense. Because it involves the power of laws, this restriction requires a lot of materials. This pseudo-restriction imitates the structure of a real restriction and is completely made of wear patterns. It can be condensed with divine consciousness and can also be engraved. It does not require a lot of materials. Although the power of this pseudo-restriction is not as strong as a real restriction, it is still much stronger than the ordinary wear patterns. Moreover, a magic weapon with a pseudo-restriction is more likely to have a weapon spirit than an ordinary magic weapon. Of course, this pseudo-restriction also has a lot of shortcomings. First, it is very troublesome to refine, and it consumes a lot of divine consciousness and mental energy. There are not many disciples in the Tai Sword sect who can engrave pseudo-restrictions. The inherent flaw of wear patterns is that they cannot be too far apart from each other. Restrictions use inscriptions of laws to make up for this flaw. Pseudo-restrictions do not use inscriptions of laws, so they cannot make up for this flaw. Therefore, the pseudo-restriction cannot be too big, and there cannot be too many pseudo-restrictions on a magic weapon. This time, Wang Daoyuan understood. This pseudo-restriction was developed by the ancestors of the Tai Sword sect to deal with the depletion of spirit qi. As the spirit qi gradually depleted, high-grade spiritual materials would slowly decline without the nourishment of spirit qi. Sooner or later, 6th-grade refining materials would disappear. At that time, 5th-grade magic weapons would become the strongest magic weapons. With this pseudo-restriction method, the Tai Sword sect could refine even more powerful 5th-grade magic weapons to maintain their status. However, at this point, it was meaningless to have a pseudo-restriction. Wang Daoyuan was a divine transformation cultivator. As long as he was willing to spend time, he could restore many of those materials to 6th grade. He could make up for the lack of refining materials and refine 6th grade magic weapons. Pseudo-restrictions were not as good as real restrictions, and there were many restrictions. There was not much point in keeping this thing, so it was not bad to use it for an exchange. Wang Daoyuan was also very interested in this thing. Although pseudo-restrictions had many shortcomings, they were stronger than ordinary 5th grade magic weapons. With the space of the spiritual pearl, these shortcomings did not matter. Although the 5th grade magic weapon was not useful to him, it was very useful to the Yen Kingdom. He had learned a lot about the War of Providence. Even in the War of Providence, Yuanian cultivators were qualified to be cannon fodder. If their magic weapons were good, it could also increase their combat strength. Most importantly, this pseudo-restriction had a higher success rate of nurturing a weapon spirit. With a weapon spirit, the difficulty of nurturing it to 6th grade would be greatly reduced. Since senior brother Swordless is so polite, I won't refuse. I'll accept this pseudo-restriction refining method. As for when the Demon Slayer sword can be nurtured to 6th grade, I can't say. When the Demon Slayer sword is nurtured, I'll send someone to send it back to the Tai sword sect. Swordless Master waved his hand and said, "No need to trouble yourself. I'll let junior brother Kuei Jian stay in the Yen Kingdom. When the Demon Slayer sword is nurtured, I'll let him bring it back to the Tai sword sect." Kuei Jian was a little careless in doing things, but his cultivation talent was not weak. He had already broken through to the Yuanian realm. It seemed that he wanted Wang Daoyuan to give Kuei Jian some pointers. Back then, he was able to fuse sword intent because he owed the Tai sword sect a favor. On the path of cultivation, Kuei Jian and his disciple had also given him a lot of help. It was only right to give him some pointers. No matter what, the Tai sword sect was one of the top forces with more than 70,000 years of heritage. Most importantly, the Tai sword sect had no involvement with the forces south of the decimating heaven abyss. The core inheritance, the Tai sword diagram, was left behind by the eldest disciple of the Beiyuan sword Immortal, and could be considered to be of the same lineage as him. In the future, when he revealed his identity as the son of Providence, the Tai sword sect would be the best to rope him in. Sooner or later, they would be on the same side. It was only right to help. Then let senior brother Kuei Jian wait in the Yen Kingdom. After discussing business, everyone chatted for a while before gradually dispersing. Wang Daoyuan instructed Wang Mingchen to take care of Xian Jiuxiao and Kuei Jian before returning to Chang'e Palace with Zhou Wan. He took out the jade water gourd and examined it carefully. This gourd was really not bad. It was close to mid-grade tier 5 and had just grown. If it could be nurtured in the space of the spirit pearl for a period of time, it might be able to rise to mid-grade tier 5. However, Wang Daoyuan could not be bothered to go through so much trouble. It was better to take out the seeds inside and plant them in the space of the spirit pearl. With the current conditions of the spirit pearl, it was not difficult to nurture a tier 6 jade water gourd. His right hand formed a sword finger and with a light wave, the head of the gourd was cut off. Probing it with his spiritual sense, he found that there were only 3 gourd seeds inside. He thought to himself, spirit plants and spirit beasts are the same. The higher the grade, the more difficult it is to reproduce. Fortunately, these 3 seeds were all mature and plump. Such seeds would grow well if they were planted in any spiritual field. The space of the spirit pearl is already extraordinary, and with the fire of life, growing the jade water gourd is even less of a problem. Zhou Wan looked at the gourd and sighed, it's a pity that it's not of the fire attribute. In the future, I'll find some upper grade tier 5 materials for refining weapons and nurture them to tier 6 before refining them for you. He put the jade water gourd and the seeds into the space of the spirit pearl and handed them to his clone. Then, he took out a compass and a long sword from his universe ring. On the surface of the compass was a Taiji diagram. It was the yin-yang compass passed down by the ancestors of the Archaic Mysteries sect. The long sword shone with a cold light, but there were no decorations. It was no different from an ordinary Tai sword. Only the 2 small words, Demon Slayer, were carved on the hilt of the sword. These 2 words faintly exuded a sharp aura. It could be seen that the person who carved these words had high attainments in sword cultivation. Seniors, please come out and show your faces. I still need your help when nurturing the weapons. If I rely on myself, who knows how long it will take. The figures of the Yin-Yang Patriarch and the Demon Slayer Patriarch appeared on the 2 weapons. It was easier to nurture weapons with weapon spirits. Just like Linglong, it could directly eat the 5-element spiritual fire. The Yin-Yang Patriarch was an old acquaintance. The Yin-Yang compass needed pure Yin and pure Yang Qi. He only needed to give it the Scarlet Yang primordial fire and Gui water death flame to refine. The Demon Slayer sword was a metal attribute weapon. He just needed to draw out some Tai golden flames for the Demon Slayer Patriarch to refine. Wang Daoyuan drew out 3 types of spiritual fire. He gave the Scarlet Yang primordial fire and Gui water death flame to the Yin Yang Patriarch and the Demon Slayer sword. Seniors, hurry up and refine the spiritual fire. The 2 weapon spirits did not stand on ceremony and directly swallowed. The Demon Slayer sword's foundation was slightly weaker. After an hour, it was already full. After all, the yin-yang compass was a powerful weapon. Its foundation was much stronger. It swallowed 2 types of spiritual fire at the same time and lasted for more than 2 hours. This consumed a lot of spiritual power. Ordinary soul formation cultivators might not be able to withstand it. But to Wang Daoyuan, it was a piece of cake. After the 2 weapons were full, Wang Daoyuan put them into his interspatial ring. Even if they used to be of extremely high grades, that was tens of thousands of years ago. Without the nourishment of spiritual power all year round, the quality of the weapons themselves had severely declined. It was like a person who had been sick for a long time and his body and bones had collapsed. Now, if he wanted to replenish his body, no matter how well he ate, it was impossible for him to recover with just one meal. On the contrary, it was possible that he ate too well and could not take the nourishment. Slowly recuperating was the right way. It was the same for these 2 weapons. If he wanted to restore their grade back then, he would have to take his time. Chapter 1046. The Yin-Yang compass and Demon Slayer sword had swallowed a large amount of spiritual fire. It would take at least a month or 2 for them to use all of it. Wang Daoyuan also planned to use this time to look at his harvest. He took out the aura examination technique and read it carefully. The aura examination technique was a relatively complicated secret technique. In order to unleash its full power, it required the use of divine sense and spiritual energy. At the same time, it also required the use of the eyes. Speaking of which, it could also be considered a kind of eye technique. Using divine sense and spiritual energy was not difficult for Wang Daoyuan. However, eye techniques were a bit more difficult. It required the widening of the small meridians in the eyes and injecting a large amount of divine sense and spiritual energy. If he did not use his eyes, he could also use it. However, the aura examination technique would not be complete and its effect would be greatly reduced. Wang Daoyuan had also cultivated the heaven-peering secret technique before. However, that only required the power of divine sense, which was very different from this aura examination technique. After reading the aura examination technique, Wang Daoyuan realized that his understanding of this secret technique was still too little. The aura examination technique was only the most basic way to see a person's luck. When cultivated to a high level, it could also see the luck of a force. It could even pry into heaven's secrets and predict good or bad luck. Apart from that, it could also be used to search for treasures and spiritual veins. However, if one wanted to cultivate it to a high level, they would need a matching technique. That was the core inheritance of the archaic Arcanum sect. Without a matching technique, this aura examination technique could only be used to see a person's luck. Wang Daoyuan muttered in his heart. The archaic Arcanum sect's aura examination technique was thought-provoking. The archaic Arcanum sect was good at looking at luck. The fact that he was the son of luck could be hidden from others, but not from the archaic Arcanum sect. Even if they did not dare to look at his luck, they could see the Wang clan's luck. They should have known about this long ago, but they had remained silent. Perhaps it was because they wanted to be on the same side as the Yin-Yang deity and did not dare to take sides easily before receiving instructions from the Yin-Yang deity. Or perhaps they felt that he was born in a poor and remote place like Beiyuan and had no hope of winning. They wanted to remain silent and wait until he was defeated before taking sides. Now that he had handed over the aura examination technique, it was most likely because he saw that Su Chen was rising too quickly and had a chance of winning. First, he would throw out some useful things and form a good relationship with them. That way, he would have a way out for himself. No one knew what the archaic Arcanum sect was thinking at the moment. Now that he was just a soul formation cultivator, they didn't plan on joining him. Once he reached the Grand Ascension stage or even the Mighty Figure stage, they would have to reconsider whether they should submit to him. There was no point in thinking too much. If he wanted to fully integrate Beiyuan, he would have to wait until his cultivation was higher. Right now, he was still considering the cultivation method of the aura examination technique. The risk of widening the small meridians in his eyes was not small. Furthermore, it would take a very long time to nurture it. At most, it would take 100 years, and at least a few decades to achieve something. Wang Daoyuan did not intend to cultivate the complete aura examination technique. It was enough as long as he could tell if others were children of providence. There was no need to spend so much effort. Just like when Patriarch Yin Yang and Patriarch Myriad Spirits used it, he could see through his own background. He could even see through his ancestors who were many generations away. They definitely didn't have physical bodies. If an illusory weapon spirit could use it, human cultivators would naturally have no problem. Wang Daoyuan did not plan to cultivate his eyes for the time being. He only used the power of his divine sense to perform the aura examination technique. This technique was indeed passed down by a mighty figure. It was quite difficult to cultivate. Wang Daoyuan only used the power of his divine sense. After cultivating it for 3 days, he finally performed it. He first looked at Zhou Wan's providence. He saw that there was a purple-gold auspicious cloud with a radius of 1,000 feet above Zhou Wan's head. The auspicious cloud emitted thousands of auspicious qi. According to the aura examination technique, this kind of providence belonged to a mighty figure. Going one step further, the auspicious cloud would transform into the shape of a dragon. At that time, it would have the appearance of an earth immortal. Zhou Wan glanced at him. "Why are you looking at me with such a perverted look?" "I just learned the aura examination technique of the archaic Arcanum sect. I want to see how Lord Shadow Master's providence is." Zhou Wan looked curious. "Tell me, what's the situation with my providence?" "It's the appearance of a mighty figure now. However, the providence of a son of providence can affect others. If you are affected by me, your providence will become stronger in the future. If you go one step further, it won't be a problem for you to become an earth immortal. So, I can also live forever in the future? If you don't want to, I don't have any objections. When you die, I will marry a few beautiful wives and concubines." Upon hearing this, Zhou Wan's killing intent burst out. Wang Daoyuan's heart turned cold. He immediately admitted defeat. "Lord Shadow Master, please don't be angry. I was just joking." Zhou Wan snorted and continued to meditate. Wang Daoyuan was relieved. He saw the providence of a soul formation cultivator with the appearance of a mighty figure. Moreover, he didn't suffer any backlash. The appearance of a mighty figure was extremely rare even in the center of the Qianyuan realm. If such a providence didn't suffer any backlash, then other cultivators didn't need to mention it. If he wanted to cultivate the providence technique to a high level, he needed the assistance of a cultivation technique. He didn't have such a cultivation technique, so there was no need to waste time cultivating it. He put away the providence technique and picked up the beast skin book that he had exchanged with the Tai sword sect. He didn't have many 6th-tier materials on hand, and it would take too much time to nurture them. It would be good if he could rely on this pseudo-restriction to create a pseudo-spiritual weapon. He was most familiar with defensive restrictions. He also found a pseudo-defensive restriction from the beast skin book. After careful identification, this pseudo-restriction and the real defensive restriction were of the same origin. However, there were no nomological inscriptions in the pseudo-restriction. The places that should have nomological inscriptions were replaced with tool inscriptions. Of course, tool inscriptions had different functions from nomological inscriptions. It was impossible to simply replace them. Many tool inscriptions had to be added to make up for the shortcomings. Therefore, in terms of complexity, this pseudo-restriction was much more complicated than the real restriction. It was not easy for ordinary refiners to inscribe this pseudo-restriction. However, Wang Daoyuan's blood demon clone could do it. This guy should have stayed in the spiritual pearl space for thousands of years. At the very least, he had refined over 1,000 magic tools. In terms of the foundation of the path of refining, even Lei Yen Jinren couldn't compare to him. The two demon clones were about to undergo tribulation. It was just that it wasn't appropriate for them to undergo tribulation in Beiyuan. Beiyuan's laws and heavenly Tao rejected the demons. Once they underwent tribulation, the lightning tribulation would be far more terrifying than the human tribulation. The two demon clones weren't amazing people. Under the terrifying tribulation, it would be difficult for them to survive. When he had time, he would go to the heaven-eliminating abyss and ask his master, Guiyuan Sword Immortal, how the demons should undergo tribulation. As for the problem of this pseudo-restriction being too complicated, it was something that many soul formation ancestors of the Tai Sword sect had researched after all. It was not easy to simplify it. He could only make do with it. The state of Qin wanted a 5th-tier upper-grade defensive magic weapon. When he helped the state of Qin refine the magic weapon, he could use the pseudo-restriction. He took out a 5th-tier mid-grade dragon scale. This thing was obtained when he killed the dragon species in the Sea of 7 Stars. After smelting a few 5th-tier mid-grade metal materials into the dragon scale, he began to toss the pseudo-restriction. This thing was too complicated, and it had very strict requirements for size. It was basically impossible to inscribe it. Wang Daoyuan planned to imitate the refining method of the spirit weapon, using his spiritual consciousness to condense the pseudo-restriction, and then calcine it with flames, so that the pseudo-restriction and the embryo would be completely integrated. No matter how complicated the pseudo-spirit weapon was, it didn't involve the power of laws. It was just that the consumption of spiritual consciousness was a little large. For Wang Daoyuan, it wasn't a difficult thing at all. With only one time, he successfully refined a 5th-tier upper-grade pseudo-spirit weapon shield. Then, he put it into the Xian cauldron in the spiritual pearl space and slowly nurtured it. In this magic weapon, there were 2 types of restriction, defense and water resistance. It just so happened that the core inheritance of the state of Qin was also of the water attribute. With 2 magic weapons with weapon spirits by his side, it was not suitable for him to cultivate with Zhou Wan. Wang Daoyuan could only continue to ponder about the pseudo-restriction. After a few days of struggling with the pseudo-restriction, he suddenly had a bold idea. He used his reverse thinking and found the great value of this pseudo-restriction. Since the pseudo-restriction was deduced by the semi-god realm ancestor of the Tai Sword sect with the restriction. Moreover, the two could play the same role, but there was a difference in strength. The pseudo-restriction and restriction with the same function must be corresponding to each other. He could also use the pseudo-restriction to reverse the restriction. Of course, it was meaningless to directly reverse the restriction. Among the top forces, the refining method of the Tai Sword sect was similar to the Wind Snow Palace, which was at the bottom. Using their pseudo-restriction to reverse the restriction, they could only get a very ordinary restriction, and there were not many of them. It was meaningless to directly reverse the restriction, but they could improve the pseudo-restriction and then reverse the restriction. The real restriction involved the power of laws, and there were a large number of inscriptions of laws and wear patterns. Every restriction was in a delicate state of balance. If any wear pattern was changed, it was possible to break the balance and cause the entire restriction to collapse. Not to mention creating a new restriction, even if it was just improving the restriction, it required a deep understanding of the laws. As for those who could truly create restrictions, they were even rarer. Every single one of them was the cream of the crop among the refiners. Even for these outstanding craftsmen, it would take a lot of effort to create a restriction. A refiner might spend most of his life's effort on creating a restriction. For Wang Daoyuan, the most important thing was cultivation. He did not know when the War of Providence would start. A higher cultivation was more useful than creating a restriction. It was impossible to spend a lot of effort on the restriction. However, with this pseudo-restriction, not to mention creating one, it would be easy to improve the restriction. First, he would improve the pseudo-restriction and see the effect of the improvement. If the effect of the improved pseudo-restriction was good, he would reverse engineer the restriction from the pseudo-restriction. There was no problem with this idea. He could give it a try. If he succeeded, he would have found a shortcut to improving a real restriction. Once he was familiar with this shortcut, he would be able to use it to create a new restriction in the future. Although it was only a short 30 years in his previous life, compared to the 400 years in this life, it was nothing. However, the way of thinking of his previous life was still very useful in this life. Just like the idea of reversing the pseudo-restriction to improve the restriction. The Tai sword sect had struggled for tens of thousands of years, but they had never thought of this method. The records of the Valley of Beasts had never mentioned anything about it. If he could really succeed in this path, he might be able to open up a new path of craftsmen and become the founder. Even if he had a shortcut, he still needed to have true ability. He needed to familiarize himself with the process of deducing pseudo-restrictions. He also needed to be able to use restrictions to deduce pseudo-restrictions and reverse engineer them. The Tai sword sect had struggled for a few generations before they had this much success. It was definitely not reliable for him to do it alone. It was best to let his clone do it in the space of the Spirit Pearl. Clone Shuequan, this peak Yuanying demon, did not have enough cultivation and was unable to control the restriction. If he wanted him to work on the pseudo-restriction to reverse engineer the restriction, he had to break through to deity transformation realm first. It seemed that he had to make a trip to heaven-ending abyss as soon as possible. The laws and heavenly Tao power there were extremely weak. The suppression on the demons was very small. It was much safer for the demons to go through the tribulation there. Chapter 1047. Wang Daoyuan still had to nurture the yin-yang compass and demon slayer sword now and could not leave casually. The matter of going to absolute heaven abyss could only wait until after he nurtured and played with artifacts. Right now, he could also find time to study more restrictions. The grade of a spirit artifact was also related to the number of restrictions. Although the restrictions between Tier 6 and Tier 7 spirit artifacts were different, there was no essential difference. They were all formed by law inscriptions and artifact patterns. Tier 7 spirit artifacts were just a little more complicated. The most direct difference between different grades of spirit artifacts was the number of restrictions. 1 to 9 restrictions were low-grade Tier 6 spirit artifacts. 10 to 18 restrictions were middle-grade Tier 6 spirit artifacts. Deducing from this, a high-grade Tier 7 spirit artifact had more than 45 restrictions. After that, no matter how many restrictions there were, it could only be a peak Tier 7 spirit artifact. At Tier 8, it would be an immortal artifact, having an essential difference from spirit artifacts. Because each restriction carried an extremely large amount of law power, the more restrictions there were, the greater the pressure on the artifact embryo. Inferior artifact refinement materials could not carry too many restrictions at all. The artifact refinement materials on the dragon turtle and Tier 6 Kuei dragon could only carry less than 20 restrictions at most. 19 restrictions was a high-grade Tier 6 spirit artifact. Wanting to use these materials to refine a 19 restriction magic artifact, the requirement on the artifact refinement master's standard was too high. Without many years of polishing, it was simply impossible to do it. Furthermore, it required excellent materials, such as reverse scales, dragon pearls, and dragon horns. Wang Daoyuan also studied restrictions every day, attempting to refine higher-grade spirit artifacts. Every once in a while, he would feed the yin-yang compass and demon slayer sword large amounts of spiritual fire. Apart from this, he also gave pointers to Xian Jiuxiao and Kuei swords cultivation. Of course, there were also many Wang family disciples who came to Wang Daoyuan for guidance normally. After struggling for 3 years, the yin-yang compass and demon slayer sword finally broke through to Tier 6 one after another. Wang Daoyuan personally came to the Chamberlain of Dependencies. As Yuanying cultivators of other major factions, these two fellows naturally could not be neglected. Wang Mingchen received them as he received envoys from other countries. These two fellows were also quiet. Apart from cultivating, they did not cause any trouble. Upon sensing Wang Daoyuan's aura, he quickly came out to welcome him. Wang Daoyuan took out 2 magic tools. Senior brother Kuei Jian, brother Jiao Shao, I've already nurtured the demon slayer sword and yin-yang compass. Xian Jiaoxiao took the yin-yang compass and injected a trace of spiritual energy into it. A gigantic Taiji diagram appeared out of thin air, enveloping the entire chamberlain of dependencies. With the might of this Taiji diagram, even Wang Daoyuan would have to expend some effort to break it. The Kuei sword also injected a sliver of spiritual energy into the demon slayer sword. The long sword trembled slightly, and countless rays of sword light spread out. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly made a move to extinguish the sword light. Senior brother Kuei Jian, you have to be careful. This demon slayer sword doesn't recognize you as its master. If you control it carelessly, you'll hurt yourself and others. Kuei Jian laughed awkwardly. I'm really sorry. It's my first time seeing a rank 6 spirit artifact, so I got a little excited. Then, he put away the demon slayer sword. Wang Daoyuan instructed, right now, the spiritual energy concentration in Beiyuan Xiuxian is still too low. The cultivation of Archaic Mysteries sect and Tai Sword sect's martial uncles is also insufficient. Even with the cooperation of the artifact spirit, they are unable to fully unleash the power of the spirit artifact. Furthermore, their spiritual energy is somewhat insufficient to nurture a tier 6 spirit artifact. Don't use these 2 spirit artifacts too frequently normally. If the spiritual energy consumption is too great, it might make their grade drop back to tier 5 again. Xian Jiaoxiao hurriedly retracted the power of the yin-yang compass, not daring to consume too much. Many thanks to elder brother this time. After disturbing you for another 2 years, it's time to return to Archaic Mysteries sect. Farewell. The Kuei sword wanted to continue eating and drinking here, but Xian Jiaoxiao had already left. He was also embarrassed to stay. Junior brother Daoyuan, I'll take my leave too. Wang Daoyuan still planned to make a trip to Heaven Decimating Abyss, so he did not urge them to stay. Senior brother Kuei Jian, brother Jiaoxiao, have a safe journey. With their strength, coupled with a tier 6 spirit artifact, no one could threaten them outside of the state of Yen. Wang Daoyuan returned to the imperial study, took out a high-grade tier 5 dragon scale shield, and handed it to Wang Mingchen. This is the shield that I helped the state of Qin refine. Pseudo-restrictions are used inside. The power of this shield far surpasses ordinary high-grade tier 5 magic artifacts. This is also considered selling a favor to the state of Qin. You send the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce's experts to send this magic artifact to the state of Qin. At that time, the state of Qin's royal family should know what I mean. The meaning of doing so was to let the state of Qin allow the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce to enter, as a way to repay the favor. Wang Mingchen's eyes lit up. Father Emperor's move is brilliant. The relationship between the state of Qin and our Wang family is pretty good. It's just that the 2 families don't have much interaction, and there's no exchange of interests. The Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce wanted to enter the state of Qin and had never found an opportunity to make a move. Borrowing this favor now, the state of Qin's side should not refuse. Even the state of Qin had the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce's shops. All of the powerful countries in Beiyuan were covered by the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce. The remaining small countries are nothing to be afraid of. We can just let the branches of the Blood Shadow hang the flag of the state of Yen and give them some benefits. No one will dare to say anything. Wang Daoyuan nodded. A big force needs strong enough pillars, good enough inheritances, sufficient resources and industries, and a perfect system. Our Wang family has me and your mother, as well as the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts. The industry is the best in Beiyuan. The only thing we lack is a mature inheritance system. If we completely take over the Blood Shadow, the last shortcoming of our Wang family will be filled. Only when Beiyuan is free of worries can I run the Sea of 7 Stars with peace of mind. You still need to suppress your cultivation. Don't be in a hurry to break through. Yuanying is the foundation of the primordial spirit. The more stable the foundation when forming the nascent soul, the higher the upper limit of yuanying when breaking through to the soul formation realm. It's not too late to break the core and form the nascent soul when there's no room for improvement. I think so too. That's why I haven't been in a hurry to break through. Your mother and I are going to make a trip to the headquarters of the Blood Shadow. Ming Ren and Ming Xian are still immature. Take care of them. Let them suffer a bit. They are still childish now, but it will be troublesome when they become playboys in the future. After saying that, he left the imperial study and returned to the Chang'e Palace. Seeing that Zhou Wan was meditating and cultivating, he didn't disturb her. After waiting for a long time, Zhou Wan woke up. Wang Daoyuan smiled. I've already helped the Archaic Mysteries sect and the Tai Sword sect to nurture their artifacts. There's nothing else for now. I plan to make a trip to the Decimating Heaven Abyss. You can also go back to the headquarters of the Blood Shadow. Why are you going to the Decimating Heaven Abyss again? It's time for the two devil clones to undergo their tribulation. We can't let them undergo their tribulation in Beiyuan. Zhou Wan nodded slightly. That's good. I also want to take a look at the headquarters of the Blood Shadow. If I don't go back for a long time, some people might have other ideas. The two sat on Lei Peng's flying boat and flew towards the south. After staying on the flying boat for less than a day, Zhou Wan was a bit annoyed. I've been staying on the flying boat all day. I'm sick of it. Let me enter the space of the spiritual pearl. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew what Zhou Wan was thinking. She was hungry again and wanted to go into the space of the spiritual pearl to eat something delicious. Wang Daoyuan didn't refuse and directly put her into the space of the spiritual pearl. His own primordial spirit also followed in. The flying boat was controlled by the two clones, so he didn't need to trouble himself. After entering the space of the spiritual pearl, he saw that the expansion speed of the water area had increased again. After a few years, the total area of the water area had reached 3,000 mu. On average, it could increase 400 mu of water area every year. In addition to the original 500 mu of spiritual fields and fish ponds, the total area exceeded 3,500 mu. The small spiritual vein beside the immeasurable true water was already high grade of the fourth level. Its length had reached 300 meters. Black Dragon was also at the peak of the third level. Relying on its inherited memories, it could already fly for a short period of time. At this time, it was playing in the water area at the edge of the spiritual pearl space. Sometimes, it would even leave the water and fly for a distance. The 3 jade water gourd seeds that it had planted before had all survived. Now, the gourd vine was more than 3 meters long and wrapped around the spiritual wood beside it. Its grade had also reached low grade of the 5th level. It was just that there were no signs of flowers or fruits yet. Wang Daoyuan wasn't in a hurry at all. Instead, he hoped that the flowers and fruits would be later so that the gourd produced would be of a higher grade. Black Dragon felt Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan's auras and quickly flew over. It withdrew its body that was more than 30 meters long and turned into a 4 to 5 feet long little black dragon. It landed in front of Wang Daoyuan. Father, I haven't seen you in a long time. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. This little guy hadn't broken through to the 4th level yet and had already learned to speak. How did you learn to speak so early? The density of my divine beast bloodline is high, so I'm naturally much stronger than those half-divine beasts. Also, I've eaten a lot of the demonic soul grass you planted. The demonic soul grass could increase the intelligence of demons. Black Dragon's foundation wasn't weak to begin with. Coupled with the effects of the demonic soul grass, it wasn't surprising that it could speak. You should hurry up and cultivate. After transcending the 4th level heavenly tribulation, your bloodline can still improve further. At that time, you'll awaken more inherited memories, and your cultivation speed will be even faster. After Black Dragon said a few words to Wang Daoyuan, it ran to Zhou Wan to curry favor. Zhou Wan was overjoyed to hear him call her mother. Black Dragon had been clever since he was young. In the spiritual pearl space, there was a clone teaching him, so he naturally wasn't bad now. After staying in the spiritual pearl space for more than 100 days, the flying boat arrived at Blood Shadow's headquarters. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan left the spiritual pearl space, put away the flying boat, and landed in the small valley above Blood Shadow's headquarters. At this time, there were more than a dozen elders in the valley waiting for them. First elder Jianghu, second elder Chao Jing, and third elder Wang Daojian were among them. The other hall masters were also here. As soon as the two of them landed, everyone bowed. "Greetings, Shadow Lord." "Greetings, Your Majesty." Zhou Wan waved her hand gently. "No need to be so polite. Let's talk in the headquarters." More than a dozen elders led the way, each with a smile on their faces. Wang Daoyuan could understand their feelings. Ever since Blood Shadow was established, it had been pretending to be weak in front of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and other top forces. Even if it accepted assassination missions, it didn't dare to touch the disciples of the top forces. Although it wasn't suppressed, Blood Shadow's strength was about the same as the great Zhou countries. There was still a gap between them and the top forces. Now that Zhou Wan had become a soul formation cultivator, she was also the second soul formation cultivator in Beiyuan Shoshin in 20,000 years. The strongest cultivators of the four top forces, including the Divine Weapon Pavilion, were only in the late or middle Yuanying stage. On the surface, Blood Shadow's strength had surpassed the four top forces. After being suppressed for more than 70,000 years, it finally had a chance to be proud. After entering the headquarters of Blood Shadow, Wang Daoyuan accompanied Zhou Wan to the conference hall. All the elders were waiting there. Seeing them come in, they bowed together. "Congratulations, Shadow Lord and Your Majesty, for reaching the soul formation realm. Your great Tao is within reach." Zhou Wan nodded. "Elders, you don't have to be so courteous." Wang Daoyuan had been to the conference hall before. At that time, the elders of Blood Shadow were very respectful to him, but there was always a hint of hostility. They were not convinced that an outsider was acting like a tyrant in the headquarters of Blood Shadow. This time, there was only respect left for these elders. There was no trace of hostility left. Instead, there was a hint of flattery. As the Wanshuan Chamber of Commerce merged with the branches of Blood Shadow, the headquarters' power was getting smaller and smaller. The attitudes of these elders also changed. In the past, they looked down on the Yan Kingdom. Now, they planned to integrate with the Yan Kingdom. Chapter 1048. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan sat down on the main seats. The Blood Shadow elder, Jianghu, took out a few animal skin books. "Shadow Master, these are the records of the various affairs we handled after you left the headquarters. There are also records of the use of various resources and personnel. Please take a look." Zhou Wan took the animal skin books and read the contents one by one. In the years since she left, there were no obvious abnormalities in the finances, personnel, and resource allocation of the Blood Shadow sect. It could be seen that no one in the headquarters stirred up trouble while the Shadow Master was away. Zhou Wan looked for a long time before she nodded. "When I was away, I was very pleased that all the elders were loyal to their duties. Is there anything else to report?" Then, the hall masters began to report the important matters they handled. The three elders also reported some important matters. Because the Shadow Master was away, they didn't dare to act rashly. After half a day, they finally finished dealing with the matters. The elders left. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan returned to the small courtyard of the Zhou family. Not long after, Wang Daojian came to visit. Wang Daoyuan welcomed him in. "Not bad. You've reached the peak of the Golden Core realm. Managing the headquarters of the Blood Shadow sect without any mistakes. It's not bad that it doesn't affect your cultivation." Wang Daojian smiled. "Compared to my seventh brother and seventh sister-in-law, you're far behind. You've both reached the soul formation realm. I heard that you've reached the soul formation realm and killed all the grand monster kings of the demon clan. You also took care of a rank 6 dragon turtle that had lived for 20,000 years. I couldn't believe it until the soul formation ceremony. Then I was sure. The Wang family suddenly has 2 soul formation cultivators. The throne of the most powerful force in Beiyuan is secured. Did the headquarters of the Blood Shadow sect do anything big while your 7th sister-in-law and I were away? Wang Daojian shook his head. The Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce is annexing more and more branches of the Blood Shadow sect. More than half of the branches have been integrated into the Wanchuan market. The remaining branches have mostly discussed with the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce. Now, they have 2 masters. They may not listen to the orders of the headquarters at any time. Actually, Blood Shadow's headquarters no longer had any control over the various branches. A few elders also expressed their dissatisfaction and wanted to draw a clear line with the Yen Kingdom, but most of the elders were still friendly to the Yen Kingdom. Some of the elders had even expressed their willingness to join the Yen Kingdom. Even if they were to occupy a small spirit vein, it would be better than being a rat in the Blood Shadow headquarters. If he had said such words in the past, he would have been severely punished. But now that I've said it out loud, no one will object at all, let alone punish him severely. Upon hearing this, Wang Daoyuan understood what was going on. Blood Shadow's headquarters had basically accepted the fact that they were a vassal of the Yen Kingdom. Most people thought it was reasonable for Blood Shadow to merge into the Yen Kingdom. However, after thinking about it, it was clear that Blood Shadow was supported by the Zhang and Su families. Since these 2 pillars of support had gone to the Yen Kingdom to be the prefects, it was only natural that others would have their own ideas. After all, being an assassin was a dangerous job. Moreover, the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce earned far less than what they earned. The Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce earned spirit stones openly. With the Yen Kingdom as their backing, the risk was much lower. He nodded in satisfaction. It seems that Blood Shadow is about to mature. As long as we guide it deliberately, it will only take a few years to completely swallow Blood Shadow. Zhou Wan looked curious. How should we guide it? It's not difficult. We'll suppress those cultivators who are still hostile to the Yen Kingdom a little. As for those who want to join the Yen Kingdom, we'll promote and reward them. Now that Blood Shadow has merged into the Yen Kingdom, it's impossible for a few grumbling elders to stop this momentum. The current situation was that smart people knew what was going to happen next, but no one wanted to say it. Once Blood Shadow merged into the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce, the 70,000-year foundation would be gone. Whoever said that would bear the infamy of destroying the 70,000-year foundation. At the end of the day, immortal cultivators also needed reputation. If a Blood Shadow disciple was dissatisfied in the future, whoever brought up this matter would be criticized behind their backs. What we need to do is add fuel to the fire and let the voices of Blood Shadow's headquarters merging into the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce become louder and louder. In the end, we'll let the low-level cultivators form a consensus and force the higher-ups. Most of the higher-ups are our people. When the time comes, we'll follow the people's wishes and it'll be reasonable for Blood Shadow to merge into the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. We can also arrange for some low-level cultivators to publicize the lives of the Blood Shadow disciples who join the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. I think the disciples of the Chamber of Commerce will live better than the low-level disciples of Blood Shadow. Wang Daojian also praised, "Seventh brother, this is a good idea. Suppress those grumbling elders and reward those disciples who want to join the Yen Kingdom. This is a subtle way to express the higher-ups' intentions. I know a lot about the situation at the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. The living conditions of the low-level disciples are much better than those of Blood Shadow. As long as we send someone to publicize it, the low-level disciples of Blood Shadow's headquarters will definitely be willing to join the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. When most of the disciples agree to join the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce, the higher-ups will nod their heads and push the boat with the current. The infamy of destroying Blood Shadow's tens of thousands of years of foundation will not fall on the higher-ups. You can go and deal with these matters. You can find the elders of the Zhang and Su families. After all, they have a deep foundation in Blood Shadow's headquarters. Even if most of their clansmen have moved to the Yen kingdom, they should still have many trusted subordinates at the bottom. With them taking action, it will also be more convenient to handle this matter. Wang Daojian nodded and said, "Seventh brother, rest assured. I'll handle this matter beautifully." Finished talking, he left the small courtyard. Zhou Wan activated the various restrictions in the small courtyard and asked, "When are you planning to go to Decimating Heaven Abyss?" "I was planning to stay here for a few days before heading to Decimating Heaven Abyss. Looking at it now, there isn't much time left to annex Blood Shadow. I'll stay for a period of time and wait for the overall situation to be settled. A few years ago, in order to nurture magic artifacts, I delayed my cultivation. Now that I'm free, let's cultivate properly." After Wang Daojian left the Zhou family's small courtyard, he communicated with the elders of the Zhang and Su families. These two families already had a county of land in the Yen kingdom and had boundless prospects. They naturally cooperated fully. Wang Daoyuan also sent a message to Wang Mingchen, letting those disciples from Blood Shadow's headquarters in the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce send a message to their acquaintances at the headquarters to show off. After a few days, discussions started everywhere in Blood Shadow's headquarters. In a forest north of Blood Shadow City, more than a dozen bare-chested brawny men were resting. Among them, a man with a curly beard sighed, "Cutting down spiritual trees is really not easy. Even if we risk our lives, we'll only get 200 or so spiritual stones a month." A simple and honest-looking cultivator next to him said, "Big brotherly, you're wrong. Thinking back to when Zhang family was in power, we'd be secretly happy if we could get 100 spiritual stones a month. Ever since Shadow Master took care of Zhang family, he got more spiritual stones than before. Cultivators like us who don't have a future don't have extravagant hopes of increasing our cultivation. 200 spiritual stones is enough. It's not a problem to feed a family." The curly-bearded man was unconvinced. "I used to think so too, but a distant cousin of mine is working in Wu Country's Zhenzhe branch and has now become a member of Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. His talent and cultivation are inferior to mine, and he doesn't have any skills. He can only rely on his strength to earn spiritual stones. Before he joined Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce, he only got a few dozen spiritual stones a month. But he's helping Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce to dig ore, so his work isn't as heavy as ours. He needs at least 500 spiritual stones a month, and if he finds good ore, he'll be rewarded. Adding everything together, he can only get 1,000 spiritual stones a month at most." As soon as he said that, the other dozen or so strong men also became interested. "Big brotherly, are you serious? How can it be fake? Old Chen, that cousin of mine is called Qi Zheng. You should know him, right?" The cultivator surnamed Chen nodded repeatedly. "How can I not know that kid? Let's play naked together. He's been the stupidest since he was young, and his cultivation was always one step slower than mine. He's also a bit of a glutton and lazy. He couldn't survive in the headquarters, so he followed a Zifu realm cultivator to a small branch in Wu country to make a living. I heard that he wasn't valued and didn't have a good life. Now he's so rich." The curly-bearded man sighed. "Isn't that so? It's because the branch in Wu country has already joined Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. The treatment there is much better than here. That idiot is earning much more spiritual stones than us. Last time, he even wrote to me to show off that he already has 3 concubines." Hearing this, everyone's eyes turned red. They all worked hard, but they were barely able to support their families. They were only willing to eat spirit grains. Why was he able to eat, drink, and even have concubines? Just as they were filled with righteous indignation, an early Zifu realm cultivator walked over. No one dared to say anything. The early Zifu realm cultivator let out a long sigh. "Don't complain. You can't compare to those branch cultivators, but aren't I the same? I've established my Zifu 30 years ago, but I'm still very far from the middle Zifu realm. Ever since I established my Zifu, I've been the manager of this large forest. Every month, I only earn 1,000 spiritual stones. Apart from my daily cultivation, How many spiritual stones do I have left? Even now, I don't even have enough spiritual stones to forge a life-bound magic tool. How can I be considered a Zifu realm cultivator? The former vice hall master of the Sichuan branch of the state of Qi, Mo Lei, grew up with me, but his cultivation was always one step slower than mine. 60 years ago, he was only at the 8th level of foundation establishment. He followed a blood wolf disciple to the Sichuan branch. He established his Zifu 10 years earlier than me. In less than 10 years, he gathered enough spiritual stones and forged a life-bound magic tool. His cultivation is already at the middle Zifu realm, and he's not far from the late Zifu realm. Right now, he's the president of a second-level branch of the Myriad Rivers conglomerate. On the surface, he earns 6,000 to 7,000 spiritual stones a month. As the president of a branch, he's in charge of a branch. How can he not earn money? It's not hard for him to earn several tens of thousands of spiritual stones a month. I heard that the Myriad Rivers conglomerate only needs to make a few contributions to exchange for most spiritual items of the 4th rank and below. Foundation establishment pills and amethyst pills are all on sale. As for magic tools, there's no need to even mention them. 4th rank magic tools are on sale without limit, and if you make a great contribution, you can even purchase 5th rank magic tools. This kid hasn't taken a wife yet. He's already preparing to form his gold core. Hearing this, the others all sighed in despair. Happiness came from competition. Of course, frustration came from competition as well. Those people who had been inferior to them in all aspects had suddenly climbed above them. No one would feel comfortable. The curly-bearded man stepped forward and said fawningly, "Lord Manager, you're a Zifu realm cultivator. Do you have any connections? We've followed you for several decades, and we've made a fortune together." The early Zifu realm cultivator looked around and whispered, "I really do have a way." The Myriad Rivers conglomerate is clearly trying to swallow up all of the Blood Shadow branches. We can request to be transferred to a branch that hasn't been swallowed up yet. In a few years, we'll be members of the Myriad Rivers conglomerate. I have an old friend who's a vice hall master of a second-level branch in the state of Jianghu. There's a vacancy for a vice hall master there. Not long ago, he sent me a letter and asked me to be his vice hall master. It just so happens that I don't have many subordinates, so I can take you there. Chapter 1049. The moment the Zifu realm cultivator said this, the others perked up. The bearded man hurriedly asked, "Are you serious? Steward Lu, we've been following you for decades. You can't leave us behind when there's such a good thing." Steward Lu smiled. According to the rules of the headquarters, Zifu realm cultivators can take as many foundation establishment cultivators as they want. I need my own team when I go there. Although your talent isn't good, you were all nurtured by me. It's more reliable than recruiting rogue cultivators. I've already applied to the elders in charge of the various branches to be the vice hall master of the young nation. I should get a reply in a few days. Everyone's faces were filled with hope. As long as they could work in the branches and join the Myriad Rivers Merchant Guild, they could easily earn 1,000 spirit stones a month. At the headquarters, they were at the bottom and could be bullied by anyone. But at the branches, the people from the headquarters were naturally superior. Even if they didn't join the Myriad Rivers Merchant Guild, their lives were better than at the headquarters. The only downside was that they had to take a lot of risks. Now that the branches were about to join the Myriad Rivers Merchant Guild, they wouldn't have to fight in the future. Less work, higher pay, and no risk. Who wouldn't want to do such a job? After Steward Lu's words, everyone's hearts, which had long been numb, burned with passion again. Even when they were chopping wood, they felt especially energetic. Most of the low-level disciples in the Blood Shadow headquarters had this idea. The Zifu realm cultivators who had some connections all pulled strings to leave the headquarters and work in the branches. The foundation establishment cultivators fought to join the Zifu realm cultivators, hoping to be taken away. Of course, it wasn't just ordinary cultivators who wanted to work in the branches. There were also the disciples of the elders. In the Blood Shadow headquarters, even the vice hall masters of the branches could become mid-level managers after joining the Myriad Rivers Merchant Guild. Most of the elders in the Blood Shadow headquarters wanted to join, but they couldn't bring themselves to do so. However, it was still good to secretly arrange for the juniors of their Zifu realm disciples to go over first. There were 20 to 30 elders with real power in the Blood Shadow headquarters. Coupled with a large number of elders with no duties, the few remaining branches couldn't take in all of them. Even the descendants of elders with no duties couldn't get a position, let alone Zifu realm cultivators with no background. 2 days later, Steward Lu arrived at the forest north of the Blood Shadow city in a daze. Seeing him like this, the group of Foundation establishment cultivators hurried forward to greet him. The curly-bearded burly man hurriedly asked, "Lord Steward, what happened to you?" Seeing that there was no one else around, Steward Lu scolded, "These elders are really shameless. Someone suggested that we Blood Shadow directly submit to the Yen Kingdom. At that time, all the elders would be given a piece of land. Us middle and low-level disciples can also get a good job. At least cultivation resources won't be a problem." However, those elders often mentioned the ancestors of Blood Shadow, and said that they couldn't just give up on the foundation of over 70,000 years. They spoke as if they were filial sons and grandsons. But what was the result? Now, they were all fighting to send their children and grandchildren to the various branches, waiting to join the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce. This group of old bastards, they just set up a memorial arch and now they're selling it. How disgusting. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. After a long time, the bearded man asked, "So, you can't work in the branch?" Steward Lu nodded dejectedly. The headquarters can't even manage the branches that have joined the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce, let alone plant people there. They can only plant the branches that haven't been annexed by the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce. Among the big countries, only the Qin Kingdom's branch hasn't been annexed. The other small countries don't have many branches to begin with. A group of elders want to send their children and grandchildren over, but they can't do so at all. A Zifu realm cultivator like me without a backer can't compete with them at all. The bearded man cursed angrily, "This group of old bastards is really bad. Can't the entire Blood Shadow just submit to them? The Shadow Lord is the Yen Kingdom's Empress Dowager, and the 2 Grand Elders are the Yen Kingdom's prefects. If we submit to them directly, we won't be suppressed. At that time, everyone will work in the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce, and the treatment will be much better than now." Steward Lu sneered. "If we don't submit to the Yen Kingdom, they will have great power and can do whatever they want. Once we submit to them, the Yen Kingdom will have the final say. Even if they are given good treatment, they can't continue to exploit the ordinary disciples for benefits. They will maintain the Blood Shadow headquarters themselves and let their children and grandchildren submit to them. This is a bet on both sides. They will continue to exploit us at the headquarters, and their children and grandchildren will enjoy the benefits of the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce. No matter what happens in the future, they will be fine. What can we, the middle and low-level disciples, do? We can only be bullied by them." At this moment, a red-faced man cursed angrily, "These old bastards really want to bully us for generations. We can't just sit there and do nothing. What else can we do?" In the eyes of those Golden Core elders, a Zifu realm cultivator like me is nothing. What can you do? The red-faced man snorted. "Steward Lu, have you forgotten how we destroyed the Zhang family decades ago?" "Of course I won't forget. I was there when we caused a ruckus in the finance hall. If we hadn't caused such a ruckus, the higher-ups wouldn't have decided to kill Zhang Dingyi. After Zhang Dingming became the Grand Elder, the Zhang family was unable to recover and could only submit to the Yen Kingdom. Do you want to cause another ruckus and force the elders to agree to Blood Shadow joining the Yen Kingdom?" The red-faced man nodded. "Although the middle and low-level disciples are insignificant, once we work together, even the Shadow Lord won't dare to look down on us. Which of us brothers don't have relatives? There are many people who don't like these elders. If we go and talk to them, it won't be a problem to pull up a few hundred low-level cultivators. When the time comes, we'll go to the conference hall and petition. Although those elders aren't good people, the Shadow Lord is really thinking of us low-level disciples. Now that she's back, those elders won't dare to go too far. Perhaps we can use this opportunity to force those elders to agree to Blood Shadow joining the Yen Kingdom. We can also become members of the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce. Steward Lu thought for a long time before nodding solemnly. If we continue to stay in Blood Shadow's headquarters, we'll only be Zifu realm cultivators for the rest of our lives. It's better to take a gamble. It's fine if we fail. The Shadow Lord is benevolent and won't kill us all. It's just that we lose this position. There's nothing to gain from it anyway. It's fine if we lose it. If we succeed, we'll have done a great service in the Yen Kingdom. There will be many benefits. If we succeed, we'll be rich and powerful. Even if we fail, how bad can it be? You go and contact some reliable acquaintances. I'll go and contact some unsuccessful Zifu realm cultivators. We'll go and petition together. In the next few days, the low-level disciples of Blood Shadow contacted each other. Wang Daojian and the Zhang and Su clans fanned the flames. The higher-ups all pretended to be ignorant. This increased the confidence of the low-level disciples. More than 10 days later, thousands of Foundation Establishment and Qi Refinement disciples, as well as more than 100 Zifu realm cultivators, gathered in front of the conference hall. Even when Zhang Dingyi was killed last time, only 1,000 people showed up. This time, thousands of people were mobilized. The conference hall was almost completely surrounded by these people. A middle-stage Zifu realm cultivator with graying temples walked forward and shouted towards the conference hall, "Lord Shadow Lord, we beg you to allow Blood Shadow to join the Yen Kingdom. If you're not willing, please allow us to leave Blood Shadow and join the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce." As soon as he spoke, the many cultivators behind him also shouted. The commotion outside naturally couldn't be hidden from the cultivators in the conference hall. Zhou Wan sighed. There are thousands of disciples outside the conference hall who are petitioning for Blood Shadow to join the Yen Kingdom. Elders, what do you think? At this moment, all the elders fell silent. Whoever spoke would have to bear the blame. Those elders who didn't want Blood Shadow to join the Yen Kingdom didn't know what Zhou Wan meant, so they didn't dare to speak rashly. After a long time, Zhou Wan said, "Since all the elders are unwilling to speak, let's go out and listen to what the disciples have to say." Zhou Wan walked out of the conference hall with dozens of elders. Seeing the people kneeling outside the conference hall, she asked, "Why do you want to join the Yen Kingdom?" The cultivator with graying temples bowed and said, "Greetings, Lord Shadow Lord. A few days ago, some friends and relatives who joined the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce sent a letter. In the past, they couldn't stay in the headquarters and had to go to the branch to make a living. Now, they are all stronger than us. Any cultivator of the same level can earn 5 times more than us. It's the same for those rogue cultivators who don't have any abilities. We cultivators were born in the headquarters and don't want to leave Blood Shadow. However, we are cultivators after all. We have to improve our strength and let our families live better. If we continue to stay in the headquarters, we can only barely feed our families by working hard every day. Increasing our cultivation can only be done slowly, and we can't bear to eat any spiritual items. Our lives are worse than those of rogue cultivators. There was no point in continuing to stay here. Subordinates have been Blood Shadow's people for 3 generations, and I have worked for it for 300 years. 3 generations have never done anything to betray Blood Shadow. We only ask Lord Shadow Lord to give us a way out." At this moment, an elder with no duties spoke out, "Impudent. You people are really lawless. For tens of thousands of years, Blood Shadow has relied on its ability to make a living. If you have the ability, you will be treated well. If you have a golden core cultivation and become an elder, do you think you won't be able to live?" A Peak Violet Palace realm cultivator cursed, "Chen Ming, you old fool, don't bullshit here. Others might not know you, but do you think I don't know your background? You are a 3 spiritual roots cultivator with less than 7 inches of main spiritual root. Your talent can't compare to mine. In the past, you were Zhang Dingyi's dog and earned a lot of money. You bought a few 4th-grade magic tools to pass the core formation heavenly tribulation. I reached peak Violet Palace realm more than 100 years ago, 50 years earlier than you. I worked hard to earn spirit stones over the past 100 years, but even now, it's not enough to buy a 4th-grade magic tool. If a low-level disciple wants to break through, he can spend his whole life without a magic tool to resist the heavenly tribulation. Now that you are at core formation, you don't need to do anything and you can earn tens of thousands of spirit stones in a month. You are full of sarcastic remarks. A full man doesn't know the hunger of a hungry man. The disciples became even more agitated and shouted in unison, "Shadow Lord, please give us a way out. Shadow Lord, please give us a way out." Looking at this situation, the expressions of the elders were very interesting. The elders who had settled down in the Yan Empire acted as if it had nothing to do with them. In any case, they would have a good life in the Yan Empire. The Zhang and Su clans, as well as the elders who went to Zhouwan, had nothing to worry about. But Blood Shadow had many ambitious elders, thinking that with the Zhang and Su clans gone, they could seize the opportunity to rise. Just like the Zhang and Su clans, they could turn Blood Shadow into their private property. At the very least, they could take charge of a few businesses and turn them into their private property. The elders who stopped Blood Shadow from joining the Yan Empire were mainly these people. Their faces were ugly. Once Blood Shadow joined the Yan Empire, they would have no right to speak. But they didn't dare to oppose now. They all saw Chen Ming's end. Whether Blood Shadow joined the Yan Empire or not, his future was over. No one's ass was clean. If they were exposed, their reputation would be ruined. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.